Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. I'm Toby and this is, as you can see in the title below, week 2, day 2 of the PGIs weekly finals. It's been a roller coaster for some teams so far. Some teams have been playing extremely well and not made qualifiers. Some teams have not necessarily played all that well and made qualifiers and then started playing well in the weekly finals. So it's been up and down for all these teams. And if you missed out on week 1's analysis, that video is already uploaded to YouTube. You can go watch that video. And if you're, if you want to watch other analysis videos, there's plenty of them on the channel. You can just scroll on through. I have I think over 1,600 hours of analysis videos. So go have fun. There's plenty of it to be found. It will vary in quality. But overall, I think it's worth your while if you start and then watch all the way through. So we'll get started. It's as I said, day 2, and as you can see, we've changed things a little bit. So if you look just below here on the screen, now it says day 2, game 6. We talked about this on yesterday's stream, which is technically 2 days ago, but on week 2, day 1, where I asked the viewers if they thought it was better that we say like day 1. Game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then day 2, game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or if we should say day 2, game 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I agreed with most of the people in chat that since it says game 6, game 7, game 8 during the broadcasts as well, it makes more sense that we do it here as well. So even though we've always kind of reset the game counter when we've started a new day, now we're gonna continue. We're going to continue this, the numbering the same way they do during the tournaments. I hope that makes sense. So if you're confused by why the number is so high now when we're starting, that would be why. Maybe it's going to be confusing for some of the beginning, but I think over time, it's going to make a lot more sense for everyone. Let's get started quickly. Hi, Sensex. How are you doing? You guys are doing amazingly. Love to see it. Let's start. So, game number 1 was probably the most straightforward game I've seen in a long time in PUBG. This circle is a circle we've seen, first of all, 19 billion times before. And second of all, a circle that obviously since we've seen it so many times before, it's also a circle that most of the teams are pretty comfortable playing, or at least they know what they like to do in these type circles. We have a split, which is not really the middle of the circle, but we'll just draw up a line here real quick. We have this road that goes through, and I don't know why this road in particular. You know what? Let's draw it in another color so you can see it more easily. We'll draw it up like this. This road, everything that happens south of it and north of it, I feel like this is a big terrain changer. And I don't know why they've opted for this road. Maybe it's just roads, like for a game developer. Maybe the roads are a good cut. And then on this side we have this, and on this side we have that. Because if you go north of here, we have all these big open fields, and down south it very quickly starts becoming much more hilly and much more, like the grass becomes much higher and whatnot. So south of the road, south of the line we've kind of just drawn down here, it's much easier, just to most extents, to play in the open than it would be when you go around in all of these areas, because obviously they're big open fields and you can't do a whole lot with it. So you'll see, for the most part in these circles, a lot of teams opting to start up here, trying to claim terrain up on the north side, because similar to what we've said on Erangel, I'll kind of say it again when we get over there. It's much easier to be up here. Let's say you have a compound up on the north circle. It's much easier to start up here and then have to rotate south than it is to sit down here and have to rotate north. Up here, you really only have a limited amount of compounds. Yes, there are some small dips around in the open. You can play the half pipe or whatever people call it down by there as well. There are certain compounds, but if you don't get one of the compounds, if they're already taken, if we say there's 8 teams up here and 8 teams down here, and you have to rotate north and you can't get a compound, it's incredibly difficult to find a place to play in this circle. Whereas when you go down towards the south, because there are so many of these small dips and areas that you can kind of hide within, teams can be much closer to each other without having to fight each other. Therefore, usually we see a lot more teams, at least in the early game, up to try and sit on the north side and then make their way south if need be, then sit south and make their way north. The only contradiction to this is Los Leones. And that is, if you look at the terrain and you look down towards the south here, we kind of have a funnel. A funnel of, because teams don't want to go into Los Leones and these mountains are pretty difficult to maneuver in, it becomes like it gets narrow down here and it widens out up here. Does that make sense? If we just look at the terrain in particular, it gets much narrower down towards the south. So even though, as I said, there's space that teams can play around, in order to make their way south, they have to cross through a narrower passage to get there. Whereas to once you start making your way up towards the north, as you can see, it widens out, it opens up, and therefore when you're going south to north, you have more space. If you see a team drive in front of you or next to you, you can go, okay, let's just drive 50 meters further to the other side so that they don't kill us. Which they probably will now, because shooting people in vehicles is so easy. Whereas if you go down towards the south, sometimes you're just forced to drive literally side by side with other teams because there's just not more space to drive in. So that's the only I guess you can say advantage of going south to north as opposed to north to south. Just quick thing prior to anything moving at all. Just keep that in mind when you see these circles and go, why is the team sitting all the way down here? Well, maybe they want to have more space in case they have to rotate north. Or, why is the team sitting all the way up here when they could be sitting further towards the center? Well, maybe it's because they know that they can always go down here and find something to play around in the open if they have to. So let's continue. Again, I just talked for 6 minutes about a circle. I mean, people always wonder, Toby, how long can you talk about PUBG for? And I'm like, dude, if you pay me, I could read your bedtime stories, or like, probably not. That's awkward. I wouldn't read your bedtime stories, but I could talk for a long time. I think I should just have said I could talk for a long time. That would have made things less awkward. I can talk about PUBG for a long time. I think I'm just gonna say that. Scratch the other one. No bedtime stories for you. Now let's see. Infantry and it's not a wide two-way split, but the issue with this split right now is that they have no visual contact. They have no visual on each other in this split. And even if they do, because yes, okay, so Boliang, if he sits on the roof or on the top floor of the building, might be able to see the edge of this. If Xiaoyang and Longskirt gets pulled up on, there's nothing 9 and Boliang can do to help, other than, of course, drive there. But by the time they get there, they might be killed. Same happening the other way. If 9 and Boliang gets attacked, there's nothing Xiaoyang and Longskirt can do to get down there. Most likely, at least, in time, unless if it gets dragged out. So we'll see now what's going to happen. ENS sends it through. They take control. I was surprised to see ENS not trying to claim, well, ENS compound. But then again, I mean, when you have, again, the divide here, the gutters on both sides of this road is so big that you want to... this road can sometimes function as a river in terms of you just don't want to be, like, similar to how you see teams that have cube on Erangel. They want to have the cube and they also want to have something on the other side so they can transition quickly. This is one of those roadblocks that if you have to transition south to north, you just have to clear this and you should be all right. Same thing coming north to south. As long as you can clear this and get into this area, like into this terrain, you probably will be okay. So ENS will sit up close because, I mean, again, if we say it's a river, if we act like this is a river, and draw this with blue so it looks like a river a little more, it have the same effect as if this was the Rosak River or Yasnaya River or whatever you want to call it. When we see those circles on Erangel that have the Yasnaya River in, teams tend to stay close to the water so that once the circle guarantees us which side it's going to, whether it's going up towards the north or whether it's going down towards the south, then they can make that move quickly. Because the less time you have to spend trying to cross these type areas, the better off you are. If you're already on the correct side, you're going to be happy, right? So ENS sitting here, I assume partially because they want to be sure that if they have to cross, they can do it quickly. That's why they don't overcommit down towards the south. That's why they don't... Again, I would argue that this is a better spot than this is. But at least now they've cleared on the south side in case the circle does go south. And when you look at it, there is a bigger portion of land down here than there is up here. So the mathematical odds are that it should be going down towards the south to some extent. We'll see if that's going to be the case or not as we continue forward. And Sentex, I know you're here. If there's anything you want to say, that's Toby, that's not why we did it, or I like the thought, but that's not it, or whatever, please tell me. And actually, this goes out to all the viewers as well. And I said this in the beginning of last video, but I'll gladly say it again. I think I should just maybe open. That's not it. No, but then please tell me. Please tell me. Because as I said last video, and I think I might actually just want to open every time we do these videos with that, is that this is not, for anyone, all of you out here, we have a lot of viewers. Wow. Glad to see so many of you guys here. For anyone out here watching, this is not necessarily a come on over and Toby will teach you stuff about PUBG. This is more of a come on over and let's discuss PUBG together. Again, I'm doing these VOD reviews. Consider this a VOD review on my part. I'm doing these reviews every single day, not every single day, but after every single broadcast, regardless. And I just realized, you know what, I could do it with viewers instead of just sitting on doing it on my own. So don't consider it me lecturing you guys on things. It's just me seeing what's going on. In this case, I got to cast the game as well, but seeing what's going on and making up my mind on what I see. It could be correct, it could be wrong, but these are just my thoughts on what teams do and why they do certain things. If there are viewers that, or if there are viewers that, whether they are players in the matches or just have other thoughts, they can go, Toby, I don't think that's the case. Could it be this instead? Or, hey, Toby, I saw this happen that you didn't talk about. Why do you think that happened? Or even better, if there's a player or a coach or a manager, whatever it is, someone that knows why a certain team did a certain thing, and we talk about it, then please come in and enlighten us. I love it. I absolutely love it. We had Tixu in here the other day when we did the first day of the broadcast, and he shared a lot of insights on like Sentex. Obviously, he didn't share all the secret strats. Don't worry, bro. Don't worry. He didn't leak. No leaks. No leaks. Just gotta make sure. Gotta cover Tixu, you know. No, but there was a lot of situations where I thought, is this why Ents did that? And then he would go, no, Toby, that was actually not quite it. It was more this. And I go, oh, that's good. Now I know. Now I know why that happened the way it did. And if silence from now on. And now, Sensex, when you say no, that's not it, then I think that's amazing. So if you want to, again, no one's forcing anyone to do anything here, but if you want to, I would love to hear your thoughts on why Ents went down south towards this compound, which you can barely scout anything from. You can kind of look uphill. You can see the edge of this. You cannot see this. You can, if you're in the window, see the top of this, and you can look over towards Impala, where you just came from. Like, why would you pick this rather than scouting Ents? That's something I would like to know. Oh, Tixu is here. Tixu, shh, don't say anything. Don't say anything about the last broadcast where you leaked everything. He sent me like a 16-page PDF document that was just called Ents Strats, and now I have it. So I know when you said it wasn't wise, Tixu, it's actually you just trying to hide the secrets. Before we had WikiLeaks, now we have Ents leaks. It's not good. Tixu leaks is the new thing. Tixu leaks 2021. Make that a hashtag. Let's continue. Let's continue. Also for the sake of you guys on YouTube. If you watched the last 6 minutes, I'm sorry. You could just have fast forwarded. You would not have learned anything in that downtime period. Let's continue with the podcast. But I would like to hear why Ents go for this when they scout from here instead of picking... for example, Ents. Maybe you just didn't look that way. I don't know. Curious, though. Would like to know. If you want to tell. Was it because Ents was already taken and they would rather have Circle Center and it's easier to move out of that compound south? Ents was not taken. When they left Impala. They were sitting here to scout, I assume. And Ents was completely free. They hadn't started driving down from the hillside yet. That's why I was curious. Sure, maybe they saw people here and they wouldn't want to go past with the chance of getting shot at. But Ents was free. That's why I was curious. They were both free. They could even have 2-2 split it. That's maybe a little ballsy, given where the circle is. That's the only reason I was wondering. I do agree, though, that it's easier to get out of this compound, whereas to an Ents you can get somewhat isolated. I'm allowed to say this. You can only see east. Yeah, and that was what I said during the game. Actually, I remember that too. That scouting ends can be incredibly difficult from the east, because I mean, and all compounds with okay, so there isn't really a wall on this side, but all compounds with walls around, and that's what we said during the broadcast when I saw you guys rotate down here, was that it's so like if there's 2 people in the compound and they came on bikes, those bikes could be laid down. They maybe vaulted through a window and didn't open the door, and you wouldn't have the slightest clue as to whether there was a team in there or not. Or they could have a car parked between the concretes, right? And you wouldn't be able to see it. So it's a difficult one to scout, I guess. That makes sense. And hey, Tickleton, how are you doing? Isn't really a priority in rotation, though. Yeah, exactly. And it's easier to scout from the west than from the east. Gotcha. And it makes sense either way. As I said, with the circle and where you were, it made good sense to be on the south side too. Loving, and Squeaky's here as well. Everyone is tuning in today. Damn, all the insights we're gonna get from all these guys. You guys are lucky to be here today. I mean, not the pro players, but all the viewers. They're in for a treat, I hope. To say it like that, Crossroads more valuable than its compound these days. Makes sense. Makes sense. Does that have something to do with circle tendencies, Squeaky? Is that what you're hinting there? Circle does go up towards the northeast. A lot of teams, as we said before, no one really opted to rotate through Los Leones. As you can see, all the guys that came in from the west rotated around. 4 AM were the closest ones to go kind of through, kind of under. And they wrap over the mountainside to scout further towards the southeast. And everyone else, Zenith, Gen G, GEX, all try to wrap in south around. Now, Circle does go up, so all these teams that came in south side are now trying to funnel their way in. Again, it's a pretty, I guess you can say, pretty wide funnel, but still, they're getting squished more together than whereas to before. They had plenty of space to wrap underneath. This whole tunnel that they're kind of coming in through is only getting narrower and narrower. And as soon as they cross this road here, it becomes even more narrow, because if there's a team up here, which in this case there isn't, it becomes extremely difficult to rotate, because you're really forced to play, I want to say, from here and south, because anything here, either you're going to be shot from the team up here or from the compound. And yeah, it just becomes incredibly difficult to utilize trying to rotate in here if there's anyone sitting and playing control up in the hills, which in this case, fortunately, there isn't. But maybe for a team like Zenith and other teams below, they won't have a chance to know, so they'll just preemptively say, we have to go in south of, well, this blue line here. So let's see. Let's see. Circle goes once again up here towards the northeast. We're continuing out towards the water. Now we're reaching the I love the fact that we got a crate out here. I was hoping for the what the fuck is this circle, even though I knew it wasn't gonna happen. We can still hope, right? Now we're reaching that point where, as I said before, if you're in the north, compounds are prime. You don't want to be running around in the open, whereas down in the south, that's why I did the explanation of the terrain differences just before. Down towards the south, it's much easier to maneuver without vehicles. It's actually pretty difficult to maneuver with vehicles, but it's much easier to maneuver without because more like varied terrain, more hills, more dips, more small crevasses you can prone in. And it becomes like a multiple trench wavy terrain, whereas to up the top there's much more pancakey flatlands. It's still hilly, but it's not as spiky. Can you say that? I gotta read up on, like, what do you call it? Geographical, like, terrain references, because every time I cast and I try to explain terrain, I run out of words to describe what I'm trying to say. In the meantime, they trade. They see themselves a chance to crash a compound. I'm not quite sure why they do it. I believe they see Batulans leave, and they go, haha, that means they're alone now. Because VP is running around enough in this very small compound that day trade should see their people there. But maybe they notice Batulans go to the double compound on the other side, and they go, okay, 4v3, let's go for it. And they just full speed send it in. They get the first knock on the push, and they just back off. And that's, again, one of those day trade things where, and it's gonna sound weird, but I feel like either you go for it or you don't. The half pushes, I've seen some teams do them. It's like, okay, we'll try. Okay, never mind, let's not. In my opinion, and I would love to be proven wrong with honestly everything that I'm saying, but in my opinion, that's just a waste of a player. I'm like, either you commit to the push. They even get the knock on Hiruzen in the compound. Like, they're doing everything right. They have Puchus and Nurins up here holding, while Flash is pushing forward. He runs in. They get a knock from afar. Puchus knocks Hiruzen. That, in my book, is like, great, now we're 4v2. Let's just push and take the compound before Patulans gets back to help. He is sitting here for a little while longer. Flash comes in, goes down, but there's no help. There's no help at all. Nurins didn't push forward. Puchus didn't push forward. And when Otika is about to run forward, Flash has already gone down. It just seems like it's not very well coordinated. Where other teams would have been much more, I guess, much better coordinated in their push. So the alternative here would have been, since Vanotika is the one that's behind, Nurins push in with Flash, only have Puchus holding, and then when Vanotika comes up, he can hold where Nurins is. Or Flash wait with the push until Vanotika is ready to help out. I mean, they're pretty much doing a pull-up before their fourth player is ready to do anything to help. So, I don't know. Just one of those small things where they do weird things. And in my opinion, lose a player in a situation where they didn't have to. Because they can still play these hills pretty freely. I think the argument for them trying to push forward is that they know with the circle shifting away from the southeast is Daytrade don't want to fighting on that. Daytrade don't want to fight on the edge. So they come up here, they force Hiruzen away, and they go, great. We know there's a ton of people that are going to be coming in from down here, and we don't want to get kind of piled up in this whole chaos on the southwest side. We want to get away from that. We want to get some hard cover. In case people come to us, we want to be able to sit tight and hold them out instead of having to run around in the hills and probably get 5th or 6th partied with all the teams that are coming in. Now, unknown to them, there aren't that many teams down here. But I think that's part of the reason why they want to try and get away from what could become a very hot side of the circle. Or heated side, I guess you can say, of the circle with this shift coming in. So, surprising to me that they opt to engage the way that they do. I feel like there are many other ways they could have done it. Neither, I mean, they could just have stayed, tried to wrap south around, as we see another team do very successfully in just a short moment. But let's see how they continue. There's a lot of writing in chat, and believe me, I appreciate it, but I'm trying to, if you have questions for me, guys, and please, I mean, if the pro players are here and you want to talk to them, I'm sure you can do that too. If you want to write something to me, can you do at the name is Toby when you do it, because then the text kind of like it pops out so I can see it. Just normally that's not the thing, but we have a lot of viewers. I'm all kinds of joyous about it, don't get me wrong, but just so I know, because you guys also talking to each other a lot, so I'm trying to find out. TSG split is too wide? I don't think so. I like the way they're sitting right now. Volibear is making sure that no one is coming in from the south. In the meantime, they have Shantian and Yamsia up towards the top, and Peng can both look, like Peng can cover for them right now. He can see all the way down to where this kind of beach road goes around. So he can't see them right now, but he can see everything coming their way from here. And right now, well, that's nothing. So he's in a position from where he can cover, and if people do pull up towards Peng, Shantian and Yamsia can play unknown and push uphill and maybe stab, like backstab whoever opts to go up here. Volibear is, I guess you can say, out of position in terms of not really being able to help either of these. But I don't think that's too much of an issue. Right now, because the circle is where it is, he's looking towards the south, and he has to, because we know next circle is going to go towards the south. This hill, shifted away from, shifted away from, shifted away from. Down towards the south, it's only this hill. So we know for a fact the circle is going to go down here somewhere. Somewhere within this area, right? I can't draw circles. You know me, I can't do circles. Oh, we can do this. I keep forgetting. Phase 4. Right. We know that this circle, phase 4, is gonna go somewhere down here. Somewhere down here. I guess technically it could go up here as well. Wait, is this only phase 2? This is only phase 2. I'm way ahead of myself today. So phase 3 can, I guess, technically go everywhere. That just makes it even that just makes even more sense. Then it just makes even more sense that he plays where he does, because then there is still the possibility that teams are trying to push north. What I was saying with it was that he's looking south, So while these guys are looking towards the north to make sure no one's coming in this way, he's trying to scout forward and see where they can go next. The remaining 3 players are making sure that no one is playing behind them, while Volibear is tasked with looking ahead. And now it's equally he's looking south to make sure no one's coming, and they're looking north to make sure no one is coming, because they want to have this whole area to themselves. It works either way, but yeah, I was 1 circle ahead of myself there. So let's see. Zenith goes south around. Day trade, realize they've lost 1 player, they play south. Again, could have done that without pushing the compound, but they tried, and it didn't work out for them. 4M, they play complete opposite to Day Trade. Day Trade want to get away from the edge. 4M go, ooh, are we on an edge that could become heated later? Let's stick around here. They're sitting around. Similar to what we're seeing with TSG up towards the north, they're sitting in a position to make sure that no one is pushing in towards them. They want to make sure that if they're going to fight, they want to be the last team in on the circle. They want to be the team that can maintain control, that can start doing this whole window wipe type strategy where they just run back and forth and take out teams and make more space, forcing other teams to go away, thus forcing teams to fight each other so that they can third party them. I think it's more beneficial to play edge in these type games. Notice Miramar. Not necessarily. I mean, in weekly survival matches, no. You just want to sit in a compound and wait for the game to end on your compound, and you get a free win and you go to the weekly finals. But in the weekly finals, I think it very much depends on your team's playstyle. Some teams I would recommend stay on the edge. Some teams I would say please just go into the center and do nothing, because you're not very good on the edge compared to other teams tactically. Some of the more passive teams don't function very well on the edge. They sit much better playing defensive in a compound. The Japanese teams in particular are actually impressively good at defending compounds. I think it's fun to watch how they how they know, like they anticipate where they're going to be breached from, and they're pretty good at fortifying those like the compounds they're in. Where when we see them fight on the edge and in the open, they tend to just get slaughtered within seconds. So I would never recommend a team like that to go out and play on the edge. So I don't think there's is it better to be on the edge or better to be in the center? I think it's very, very team dependent. How circles work in PUBG, where they can go and where they can't. I can say it very briefly. So, Jules, phase 4 goes away from water. That we know. A circle, there's 3 things to it. Thing 1, phase 4 and phase 8 goes away from water, which means when we get phase 4 in, which is, this one, it will go away from water. It will try at least to go away from water. But it's not only water that it goes away from, it also goes away from what we call unplayable terrain, or at least what the game is considered unplayable terrain. And unplayable terrain are rocks that look like this. So the rocks that have this texture, these type thingies. That's this thing, that thingy, those thingies. And the rocks that have these, it's essentially the exact same texture, it's just colored darker brown. And this is more sand, like khaki colored, right? So these, this, that, you know what I mean? This, that, this. All this is considered unplayable terrain by the game for reasons unknown to me. And it will try and shift away from that as well. That's the second thing. The third thing is that a circle's center, the dot in the circle, if you draw up this and kind of look down the middle line here. So let's say in this particular case, this is the center. This center cannot be on unplayable terrain. So the circle center could never be here. The circle center could never be there. Unless if something really absurd happens in the circles prior. The circle center can never be on what's to be considered water or unplayable terrain. And that counts for all circles. That counts for phase 1 through, well, all of them. The circle center cannot be in the water, or on that, or on that. Those are the only 3 rules that apply. I hope that answered your question. If you didn't understand it, then feel free to rewind in the video and hear it again, because I mean I don't mind explaining those things at all, don't get me wrong, but I do explain it quite often. So now that you have it, now that you know where you can find it, you can rewind and see that again. No worries, always here to help. And hello Morbid, how are you doing today? Nice to learn. I'm glad to be able to help you guys out. Let's see now. New circle is popping. Down towards the south we go. Still phase 3. Water can be included. Now next circle has to go away from the water, which means we know we're going to go up here. And now TSG's position becomes even more relevant, because now we're in the situation where Volibear scouts forward. Yamcha, Peng, and Shandia probably going to wrap into the circle and then look out here to make sure that no one is going to try and wrap around in this direction, because they do not want to be playing with any other teams up here while they're trying to find a spot to play from inside the circle, because they know the next circle is going to go down here somewhere. In the meantime, what was a potentially heated side of the circle for 4 a.m. before is now going to be even more heated, because they know now they're going to get the next circle towards them to some extent, and they know that they have teams in front of them. So this is, I mean, this is paradise for the teams like 4 a.m., for Na'Vi, for these teams that like to play it a little quiet in the early game and then go fight later on. 4 a.m. are in their natural habitat. Gen G, not necessarily so much. They like playing on the edge early, but they do like to try and push center a little later, and there's just not really a center for them to push, at least not for right now. But as much as we have heat on the southwest side, the north is even more chaotic. As you can see, we have currently got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams that are outside the circle towards the northwest. So if we cut them off here, we got 7 of 16 teams, because we've only lost 3 players. It's actually pretty impressive. Only lost 3 players in almost 14 minutes. All these players are going to be coming in from the northwest to some extent. There might be teams that try to do this wraparound, as we talked about before. That's why TSG are still around here. We might have teams that try to wrap around Impala. We might have teams that try to go in underneath. And we might have teams that do this crossover in through, like in between the compounds here with Liquid and Ends. They just try and like send it in through here. Because there is still playable areas within this, and there's still a small building you can play there. But all these teams, if we consider how many playable areas there are here, and we look at the amount of teams that are still up towards the northwest, you can see the math doesn't add up. There's simply not enough space on the northwest side of the circle for all these 7 teams to make their way in without at least having to fight. So now let's see. Ends wants to see the circle push. They know we have to get in before all these other teams come plummeting in, because we don't want to be the last team. We don't want to be the team that has to run through 6 other teams to get in. So let's get in there fast. Let's get a position. They've probably been able to scout some of it from where they were. See if we can find a spot to play. And you can see as soon as Ends get away, all kinds of chaos breaks loose in the compound they just left. So smart decision from Ensign. Go, you know what? We do not want a part of whatever's going to happen on our side of the circle. Circle went south. We know there's going to be a lot of players coming from the north. Let's just get the hell away from there. They do so. They find themselves a spot inside the circle. In the meantime, Multi-Circle Gaming and Infantry have a brawl. Long Skirt does manage to stay alive for now. GX coming over the top. They go, ooh, a third-party opportunity. Let's see if we can find something. But nope, they wrap underneath. Smart play. This is what I didn't see from 4 a.m. on the south side. I'll come back to that a little later, but I love what GX does here. Your angle of approach is incredibly important. They go up over the hilltop, they recognize the fact that there's a fight going on inside the compound, and instead of what some other teams would do is push down, take the fight, and then push into the circle, they go, we could push into the compound. We know Multi-Circle Gaming just butchered infantry, so they're probably 3 or 4 alive, if they've counted the kill feed correctly. We could also, instead of taking the fight to them, now that they're outside the circle, we could just wrap underneath, sit tight, and wait for them. Because there's only one way they're going to be coming in. They're going to be coming straight into the circle. It's a pretty short passage. They're going to be coming into the circle, so we might as well just go underneath, spread out, and wait for them to come our way. Not a bad idea. That's exactly what they do. Wrap underneath, spread out, try and take control, and wait for them to push forward. Instead of trying to push out here, take a fight inside compounds, might end up lasting longer than they wanted. All of a sudden, now they're all in the blue. Another team can come in from the north, go underneath, and then hold out both of them. So I really like how GX plays this one. Because there are other teams that would just aggress way too heavily. You can see now, Multi-Circle Gaming not only are fighting GX, but they're also kind of fighting the blue and trying to get in. And since it's phase 4, they know if we get knocked in the blue now, we cannot get rest. Unless if we're literally right next to the circle. So they try and get in. They do manage to wrap around and underneath and get into the circle. New circle pops, as expected. Goes towards the land on the west side. And now the heated area of the circle is up towards the northwest. And you can see, Ents, they're now playing inside. They have a good buffer where all these other teams are sitting next to each other. And this is, again, in my opinion, I would love to hear from Ents if they think, or if they did it for other reasons. But now ENCE is in a position where they have space to the north, they have space to the compound, they have space to the west because they can see all of this, and there's so many teams fighting each other up here that none of them can focus on ENCE. As much as you would want to shoot 150 meters down towards Rustenmar if you're Summer, you can't really allow yourself to focus on that when you know that Svit is just on the other side, when you know that Longsker is just behind you. You have to focus on what's nearby you before you take care of what's happening at a distance. And that's where ENCE then goes, well, if you're not going to focus on us, I guess that's just free third-party opportunities for us. So they're sitting tight inside, waiting for all this to break, like all kinds of hell to break loose, and then they'll get a chance to third-party on that. While all these teams are still continuing to fight each other. Up towards the north, we saw the STK push on towards Liquid. Didn't really work out for them. They do almost get 3 down, but the rest has come in. They managed to stay strong. And now Liquid try to push up towards Multicircle Gaming. Again, Multicircle Gaming doing the exact same thing that we saw with GX before. They could have tried to push up, hold them out, and take the fight to them. But instead, they wrap underneath. They say, we'll sit on the inside of the circle. Next circle does pop, so okay, it's just behind them. But they sit in a good dip. They wait for them to cross, come towards them, rather than try and push out of the circle and take the fight to them. Smart playing by Multicircle Gaming and not overextending and playing to their advantage. They get the first one. Now they wrap back again, get inside the circle, play it from inside and wait for them. Play it from inside and wait for them. They get the first, they get the second. Second one goes down again. GX have a high ground so they can find one. Gets the kill, stays alive. They were only 2. They were in a 2v3, but had they pushed out to get the kills aggressively, they'd probably both have gone down and Liquid could have pushed up and played Multicircle Gaming's position. Instead, they play on the inside, they get 3 kills, they only lose 1 player. Couldn't have asked for anything else when you're just a duo left alive. And the kill on them was not even Liquid. That was GX. So there's an argument that had GX not interfered, maybe Multicircle Gaming could actually have won that fight without losing anyone. Without losing one of their 2 remaining players, I should say. So well played by Summer in not overextending and holding out Liquid in that situation. Now, while all this happened up on the north, all kinds of hell broke loose up towards the north. Down towards the south, this is where Gen G, 4AM, and Daytrade started their brawl. Because if we rewind a little bit, 4AM, they're splitting out, again, making sure no one's coming towards them. They want to make sure that if there's still anyone in the compound, they're not going to be pushing down this way, because 4AM don't want to have anyone close. The only people 4AM want to have close to them are the people they're pushing. The only teams they want to fight are the teams they decide to fight. They don't want to have other teams come in and try and third-party them. They want to be the team that gets to third-party others. So, they sit tight, they see the teams below, and this is where I think it's wrong to... I can't make up my mind on whether I think it's a mistake or not, because they do end up succeeding, but similar fashion to what happened up here, had GX pushed the compound, gotten the kills, and run in, you could say, well, Toby, but it worked. And I'll go, yes, it worked. They stayed alive. They got the kills. Good job. But I still think pushing below, splitting out, and taking control would have been the better play. So while it worked out, it might not have been the smartest thing to do. And I think 4AM makes one of those, and it's rare to me that they do, quote-unquote, mistakes down here. I would love to hear other people's thought on it. But it's just something I caught during the game that I thought was a little too greedy in a situation where they didn't really have to get that greedy. So 4AM are sitting here, they're looking towards the compound, they're looking down towards the south side where they know there are teams around. Shots have been fired between PO and Nurins. No knocks have come in, but they know there are multiple teams on that southeast side of the circle. So you can see, Lou, Crazy, they're both sitting around waiting to make sure that Gen G don't push up. They're just playing contain. Crazy is looking below, containing. Lou is looking up the hill, making sure no one from the compound comes down in their direction while they're waiting for the blue to close in. That happens. Now Chaos breaks loose. 4AM goes, yummy, yummy. This is our time to shine. Let's get some free kills. And they start pushing down. Zenith doing the exact same thing from the other side. They've been sitting in the compound for a while. They've been waiting for the Chaos on the south side to break loose. And now they can start splitting out and try to take control of the situation. Only issue is, this fight is over incredibly fast. So they come up. New circle pops. And this is where, when you look at it now, I think 4AM. Now you see the new circle. Now you see the new circle. You have a line of safety here, because all these guys are busy fighting each other. You have a line of safety here. What is the better play? If we go in here and look at what we had before, the situation up here, the situation with multi-circle gaming and liquid that happens at the exact same time up towards the north. In my opinion, the wiser play here would be 4 a.m., wrap underneath, go on the inside of the circle, maybe just like on the edge of the circle, split out, take control, and make sure that they can't get in. And I guess the contrary would be similar to what we saw up here, pushing down rather than pushing inside. The contrary is push over and take the fight. But then you're going to be part of the cluster, and you're going to have blue being your enemy alongside with whoever else is here. And it allows for other potential teams, for example, Ram, to push up and take that spot that you were going for before. So what ends up happening is the 4M does exactly this. Rather than pushing on the inside and try and hold off and take control, they wrap on the outside to take the fight with blue on their back now. And I think, you see, blue goes down. Blue is going to start closing in just a second. Genji actually does manage to get underneath, and they're playing contain on the edge, like running in kind of side by side with the teams, rather than sweeping on the inside and holding them out. And I think that is it ends up not being a mistake because they survive. But I think the wiser play would have been to push underneath. Does that make sense? It's just one of those things where normally 4 a.m., it's very rare that you see 4 a.m. not do the perfect in the situation decision. But this is one of those situations where I thought maybe the smarter play would have been to push underneath. But they opted to take the fight on the edge. They do survive. They don't get that many kills off of that engagement because Genji and Zenith and not Zenith, Genji and who was it? The other team, Daytrade had kind of slaughtered each other in that whole thing. But they do manage to stay alive. They do manage to back off, and they do manage to get, I believe, 3 kills off of the engagement, and they back off and go into the circle. Just one of those things where I was like, maybe, I don't know. Make up your own thoughts on it. Ram, Zenith, they fight down towards the south, and again, now it's reset for 4M. They got their reses, they got back to full health. Now they can start third partying again, and they're going to do the exact same thing. And look at this play. This is exactly what I was talking about, what I wanted them to do. Godfrey realizes these guys are fighting. They're maybe just done fighting outside the circle. If I'm fast enough, if I can swoop underneath and play contain on them here, if I can set down an anchor here and go, you're not getting past me, you're not getting inside the circle, we will have a fight with advantage being on our side against Ram. That's exactly what they do. They see the fight, they know he's knocked, Godfrey sprints over, now plays on the inside, and they try to hold him out. Look at this. Even though they go down, they spread out, they hold them out. Smart playing from 4 a.m. That's exactly what they did there, is what I would have wanted them to do down here. I know that means you might not get as many kills as you probably could have had. Because when you push in and you can get, like, steal all the knocks, if you only get the leftovers of the fight, of the people that push in, those knocked players from the other team are probably already down. They're worried about Virtus.pro stabbing them. That's also very true. That's also very true. There was the off chance that Virtus.pro could have pushed out. We know Virtus.pro to be a very active team. Even when they're sitting in compounds, they are a very active team. But still, with 4 alive in the situation they were in down here, I think they could have played here and had maybe 3 dedicated to looking down, 1 looking up this way, and there's still enough space. How far is it? So it's at least 200, 250 meters down. Even if you get 1 knocked quickly, you should be able to get the rest up before it becomes a factor. But there's also truth to that. They don't want to overexpose themselves unnecessarily to the compound. You know, Rory shifted. Yes, I do know that, Florence. I do know that, Florence. But we continue. 4M, they get the kills onto Ram, and now they have a decision to make. Do we play towards Virtus.pro? And that's what that's what Lou's been doing the entire time. Lou. Imagine a 4-way solo. Gems, Jeems, Lou, and Lou. That would be the most annoying thing to cast in the universe. 4 solos left alive. Gems from Attack All Around, Jeems from Liquid, Lou from 4am, and Lou from VP. Gems, Jeems, Lou. That'd be super annoying to commentate, especially if they all start fighting and you have to talk fast. It would be so impossible to know who's on what team. Especially, like, at least from a commentator's perspective. 4am, after they get the kills here, you can see Lou's only task here is to make sure that Virtus.pro don't push out. That's what he's tasked with. Lou, you're our anchor. You don't necessarily have to start shooting people, but you have to tell us, because we are focused on what's going on down here. We have to make sure that the freaks don't push up this way, because if they do and we're forced to take a fight, there's a chance that Virtus.pro do push down. And if they do push down, Lou, it's your job to make sure to tell us about it so that we can back off. So they sit down here, they're trying to hold, again, aggressive on the edge, but the blue hasn't started moving yet, so that's alright. Once the blue starts moving, you see it instantly, they start pushing in. Lou gives info, Batulins, Harusen just left the compound, now we have to fortify that. They fall back, they play it safe on the side. And now you can see how much more cautious they are with playing inside the circle as well for him. Up towards the north, ends, they have gotten rid of, well, all the threats that were up here. It took a little while, but now we're approximately at the point we were at before, where summer came in. GX wraps around the north side. I believe ENS realizes this, and they push over the top because of it. They saw them leave. They can then go up and take their spot. Smart playing from ENS. And try and play contain on Oath, who then does manage to get into the circle. I like the way that GX played this. They leave, and ENS is aware of this. And maybe they hope that ENS will do exactly what they did, so they can try and swoop in and take their spot, and then in the end of it, kind of just swap spots with ENS and get to play on the inside. Unfortunately, on their run over in this direction, they end up losing so many players that they can't really put up a fight, and ENS beats them down. But it was a smart play. They leave and go, oh ho, it's free. They swoop in and take their spot. Pretty smart idea, but doesn't end up working out for them. 4AM, they want to get rid of a freak of freaks. They do so pretty swiftly. They go down in a couple of seconds. Hey, Patulins, how are you doing? And now it's funny how I don't mind so much what I'm saying when it's just me and the casual viewers, but when all the pros start coming in, you get like the sweat running down. Like, Toby, the more wrong stuff you say, the more all these guys will make fun of you for the rest of your life. Yeah, I mean, 4AM, they spread out well on the east side. They take control of a Freak of Freaks, and they know. There's only one team left in the compound. It was them who took out the multi-circle gaming player as well. So they know this compound, it's free. We can now start spreading, because you have an entire downhill here, which they can take control of. They don't want to extend all the way to the edge, because the circle just went south again. But they have the opportunity to spread out. You can see that's exactly what they do. They go down, they take the full-on hill. They have full hillside control now, and they can just await this. Lou and Crazy have been doing a good job. Lou and Lou are doing the same thing. Lou here, VP Lou, we'll call him VP Lou, is tasked with making sure that 4AM don't start sweeping this way. They can run up over, they can come this way. Lou's job is, if they do that, he goes, bring, Batulins, they're coming, and they can now go back this direction. That is his job. Tell VP if 4AM is coming. In the meantime, you have 4AM's Lou doing the exact same thing. They're busy down here. If they come this way, Lou goes, bring, got me, they're coming, get your butt back up here. Roger that. So they're essentially filling the same role right now. He's looking for VP. He's looking for 4AM. In the meantime, ENS trying to clear out Balefrost, do manage to succeed in the end of it. And while all this goes on, VP has already positioned himself for a third-party opportunity here. It would take too long to run down this way, but in all fairness, VP does have a spot from where they can third-party they find to see the best opportunity to. So if 4AM's fight hadn't been boom, 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 all dead, if, let's say, 4AM loses 2 players, maybe it's better for VP to push down this way and try and punish this, because if both got V and Forever, sorry, I had to zoom in and remember that name for a second, that's weird. If both got V and Forever goes down, all of a sudden now, Lou cannot sit around here and look for VP anymore. He will have to turn around and look in this direction. He has to help his teammates, obviously, right? So while knowing this, VP can go, all right, he's not looking at us anymore, third party all the way. Had 4AM actually lost players there. In the meantime, now they're on the other side. They see all this happen. It all comes to an end. You see, as this fight is happening, they're actually starting to backtrack in this direction. And I assume that's because they go, okay, they're fighting. Let's get ready to third party. Fight is over. Great. Now we reset. Now we stay here. You can see it happening. That's what I love about this so much. You can see it happening in the heat of the moment. They start fighting. They come back on the edge of the circle. Now instantly, they turn around again. They focus on ENS instead. They get 2 down. The last solo comes down. 4am, as we said before, utilize the terrain to try and hold their angle on the edge. They have a pretty simple hold situation on ends. Again, Crazy, they're now swapping roles. Crazy is playing contain inside. Make sure that VP can't push around. Still playing contain on the inside. Diggory ends up getting naded, or double mollied, I believe. And now it's a 4v4. 4am against Virtus Pro. And this was a very interesting fight. And it's kind of, it doesn't do it justice to cast it off of this. But the situation was like this. Virtus Pro had been sitting in the compound for a while. And for a pretty good while, actually. VP was in the compound for a pretty long time. So while they've been shooting everything, they still have some smokes and nades and stuff like this left. And they also have helmets and vests. They might have been shot at, but they still have helmets and vests. 4am, they have been fighting, like since they were down here, they've been fighting, and now they're here. So they've been fighting the entire game to get to where they are now. I believe Lou didn't have a helmet and his vest was broken. Godv's vest was completely broken and only had, like, his helmet was red. And they were just completely banged up. They were completely banged up down here. So you go, okay, these are both two very capable teams. How do we win this game as 4am? How do we beat VP? They have better helmets and vests. They have probably got more nades and smokes and all that stuff than we do. We need to get them down at a distance. And I said this during the game as well. Well, we need to keep them at a distance and we need to take them down before they have a chance of getting up close and taking us down. If we, with every single opponent we see, if we can get the first shot, we should be all right. Because if they get the first shot, if VP gets the first shot on, let's say Hiruzen gets the first shot on Crazy, then Crazy, there's a bigger chance Crazy goes down because he doesn't have a vest anymore, right? So if they're starting to spray at the exact same time at each other, Crazy will die first because he doesn't have a vest. So if they can get the first shot in all their engagements on VP, they might have a good chance. So instead of going aggressive, we've seen 4am so many times, aggress. Now what they do is they just hold angles. They sit tight, they spread out, as you can see. They sit tight and they hold angles. They're literally just sitting pearls on a string here. Bloom, bloom, bloom. Full control on the circle and say, we just need the first shot. That's our winning play. They spread out, they take full control. Now that when they realize they come south around, first shot, Lou goes down. First shot onto Batulins, Forever gets 1. Lou takes down Spear immediately after, and all of a sudden, even though you don't have vest or helmets, you're in a 4v1 now. All of the situations, in all of these situations, 4am got first shot. And they win the game because of it. Now, Crazy does go down, but Hiruzen goes down in the end of it. That is extremely well played by 4am. And then you can go back and say, what could Virtus Pro have done differently? With the situation they were in, with the distance that was in between them, maybe they could have thrown more smokes. I don't think they really could have in this situation. Maybe they could have tried and wrap north around. I don't think necessarily that would have helped because that was what GodV and Forever was fortifying. I think they were expecting the north side push around, but that never ended up happening. VP ended up pushing down towards the south. I think VP played this endgame to perfection, and there wasn't really a whole lot Virtus Pro, not VP, sorry, 4am played this endgame to perfection, and there wasn't a whole lot that Virtus Pro could have done differently. So just a really good game. Both teams played a really good game, but 4am just bested Virtus Pro in this situation. And I think I can say that even with Batulans here, and I hope that he will, at least to some extent, agree with me. Now we go to game number 7. That's probably some of the longest time we've ever spent on one game analysis, but there was just so much in that game. There was so much in that particular match that was really, really worth mentioning. I'll just take a sip to drink. Read my words. He wasn't before in the camp, so I didn't know how deep you can play outside of it. True. Had you been around, had you been further up towards the north earlier, you could have seen them before. That is true. That is true. If you had had a better angle up there, you could have taken them both down. That is true. Reason I lost, it wasn't a... Yeah, exactly. If you were up there, like if you were back in the compound faster when you saw them, you could have taken two of them down when they tried to rotate back. True. True. That makes good sense. That makes actually pretty good sense. That if you had been more... I guess it's because you had been up and fighting with Ents. Had you been down towards the south and containing them so they couldn't get out into the field, it would have been difficult for them to get there. True. True. That is true. Now, let's see. Game number 2, or 7, overall. Also, by the way, I just have to pause for a second. Guys, I truly appreciate every one of you being here. I don't think we've ever had this many viewers for an analysis stream before. And it's without hosts and everything. So, thank you so much. I truly appreciate everyone who's here. I'm loving that so many more people now are getting into competitive PUBG, both watching and also that people care more about the more in-depth stuff. I think it's amazing. So, loving that you're all here. Now let's see. Plane, we'll flash it a few times. Pretty straightforward plane, pretty diagonal. You can't go El Pozo. I mean, you could, but that's a bit of a stretch. Now let's see. Anything out of the ordinary here when we look at it. We can thank Oath for not jumping on a Freak of Freaks up here anymore. That was a weird thing at the time, and I'm glad they don't. Thank you so much, Sibin, for the subscription. Much appreciated. Anything else that's out of the ordinary? Ends Iftigen. Pretty straightforward. Virtus Pro. We talked about it on day 1. Actually, no, we failed to talk about it on day 1. I noticed it while I was casting, but then when at least we talked about it on day 2. VP have given up Power Grid to Multi-Circle Gaming. It's that was surprising to me on day 1, but I mean it makes perfect sense. I just thought that you guys would maybe, I don't know if you would fight for Power Grid, but I mean when you have this available, it makes good sense. Let me ask you, Batulins, if DA was playing in the weekly finals, if DA was here, would you have fought for Power Grid? Would you fight for Power Grid if this was taken? That's something I'm curious to know. Maybe you're giving up too many strats by saying you would have. Yep, okay. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. That's what I was thinking. But it's because you get this for free, you go, okay, so no need to fight. Thank you. I love it when I think something about a team and it turns out to be true, because then I feel like I understand the team better. So thank you. You'd take compounds between DA and multi-circle. Ah, so all this makes sense. Yeah, okay. Good to know. Good to know. No? Oh, you mean this stuff? Oh, all this. Not this, right? You wouldn't land here. Would you? You would? Huh. Okay. That's pretty aggressive. Okay. I like it. I like it. You're going, you know what? If you want to take Power Grid, you're only getting Power Grid, nothing else. I like it. Now I'm sitting here hoping, please give us Multi-Circle Gaming and DA and VP and Liquid and FaZe in finals and see where VP goes. Imagine this. FaZe Clan, Multi-Circle Gaming, Liquid, DA, Virtus Pro. This is gonna be the most stacked side of the circle in the universe. Whew, that'd be terrible. Also kind of funny, but also kind of terrible. Either way, let's continue. Circle goes up towards the north. We were all hoping for the Oasis ending, which kind of almost happened, but didn't really happen. And obviously, with a lot of teams jumping out early, we're going to see a lot of teams having to rotate up north. Now, I'm expecting a lot of teams to be wrapping west. We know there's no one Monte, so that should be easy enough. Maybe south around. Easy enough. I don't expect to see too many teams coming in straight from the south. I wouldn't expect too many teams to come in here. Maybe they go a little further to go up towards there. And the southwest side is probably going to be pretty contested as well. We'll see as the circles start closing in. Zenith and GX are clapping their hands. They get all the compounds in the world to pick from. And let's see what they decide to do, because I always think this is really interesting. See where they decide to stay. Now we're 5 minutes into the game. Now it's teams have rotated. I think everyone is on the move. Even Gen G, who tend to rotate extremely late sometimes, are moving. Infantry are getting ready to their rotation as well. And Ents are also kind of getting ready to get going. And we know that when Ents starts rotating, everybody else has already started rotating. But I'm surprised to see GEX sit in a split like this. Okay, they don't. Thank you. I was just gonna say, is that where they're staying? No. Okay, they take hills up. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, GX. This makes so much more sense. 2 of the very best compounds in this circle. Because, as I've said before, and again, we're repeating ourselves here, but I'm glad to say it again. Up in the north side area, these hills, or mountains is pretty much what they become, they're so tall. And as you can see, for quite a few of them, mountaintop, mountaintop. I guess these are also kind of hilltops. Hilltop. All these hilltops are your priority areas because you can see everything from there. Not everything, but you can get pretty good vision from these hills, and you want to be able to scout forward. If you're just sitting down here, it's very limited what you can really see, so you wouldn't expect to see. Like, all the valley compounds are usually pretty open early on, or they're split taken, which means that GX could have had 2 up here and 2 down here, or 2 up here and 2 down there. Not that that will make sense when these are available, but you know what I mean. They could have split with a hilltop and a below. But now we have a few compounds, including these 2, and the one over here, and this one. And this one maybe not so much, because you can't really look towards this side. But still, there are a few compounds that are up in the hills, where you have hard cover and you have vision. Those compounds are amazing, because they give you both. Usually you have to decide, do we want to sit up on the hilltop, where we're exposed, our vehicles can be destroyed, everything can go wrong, or do we want to be inside the compound where the vehicles are most likely safe and we have some hard cover? Usually you cannot get both. And if you come into the circle late, there's a very good chance you cannot get both. So the few spots where you can get both, the compound here, the compound here, the compound over here, and that's really about it. Also, kind of the compound here, but we don't see too many teams sit there in the very early game, especially not when it's this far on the southwest side of the circle. The few compounds that do give you both high ground and hard cover, those are the compounds that are usually prioritized. So I'm glad that I had to look just a little longer to see GX takes this, Ram takes this, and Zenith are way up towards the north. Zenith was the team that was in the center of the circle, and we saw this happen. We saw this happen during the game, and Zenith initially played it perfect. Roth is scouting forward. Roth is in the compound. Multi-circle gaming comes up. A team comes up. Roth goes, oops, there's a team coming. I'm leaving. Thank you. You're sitting in a 2-1-1 split. That is why you do it. That is why you take 3 compounds, because if one team comes towards you, you can just back off and you still have 2 compounds remaining. So he backs out, tries to find somewhere else to go. It's going up the hill, maybe scouting towards these. Now 4AM comes, beats him to it, and goes, oh, that's unfortunate. Now I have to go down again. In the meantime, on the other side, Kickstart and I believe it's Shinboy. Yep, Kickstart and Shinboy, they get pulled up on by a Freak of Freaks. And initially, they're thinking the exact same thing. We're getting pulled up on, let's leave. That's why you have 2 compounds, because then you can back off, and then you still have 1 compound remaining. And they get in their vehicles. They get in their cars, they get ready to leave. As they drive away, Kickstart gets a knock on a cart. And that's where, in my opinion, Zenith gets a bit too greedy. Because they get the knock on a cart, and then they haven't seen the exact amount of people pulling up on them. It is 4 individual vehicles, but it can be difficult to tell apart, especially if some of the vehicles are the same type vehicles. So they get the knock on a cart, and then I don't know who called it, but they go, we got a knock, let's stay. Now, if anything, it's a 2v3. We can do that. We have Punich on the other side. He can look over this direction as well. He can kind of hold off this entire angle. And then hopefully, Roth, who is still 6 kilometers away up here, he can rotate down and help us. Roth would then drive down, play on the hilltop, and see if he could help them out. while theoretically it's not the worst idea in the world, I still think because it's so early in the game, they would have been much better off just backing off. They could have Roth up here, maybe get a knock, and then they could push together. Right now, it's still gonna be, Roth is what, 400 meters away. It's still gonna be a little while before Roth is gonna have any impact on this. And while they got the knock and couldn't get the flush, now he's there, but it's still effectively a 2v4 in the compound because a card does end up getting rest, I believe, or does it get flushed? I don't remember. So they find one, but with every single knock going in on Zenith, it becomes difficult. And look where they're fighting. That's the issue. That's my main issue with this. If we go over to Punich and we look at how Punich can contribute right now. If we look at how Punich can contribute, he can see all of this, right? He can see all of this. But he cannot see down here. All the shadow areas, actually everything that has shadow on it, he cannot help with. So on the backside of all these buildings, he cannot help with anything. Also all of this, I guess. And the backside of this building. And all the top sides here. He cannot see, obviously, from where he's positioned. And where does Zenith take the fight? Where does Kickstart and Shinboy take the fight? Inside the building, towards the east. So while, yes, they have Punich, who is looking around, and in case they have people running in this direction, maybe he can try and help and do some damage. He's not he doesn't have any effect on what goes on right now. Punich would have been much better off getting into a car and pulling up over here and coming over and helping, but he decides to stay. And Roth, from the top side, he can cover some of those angles, but still, they're inside the building. He cannot help without being down here. So he drives over the top, tries to get vision. Now Shinboy falls down. Now he comes into the compound. He ends up getting knocked from afar. That was a pretty disgusting knock, by the way, from Evil Lee. He gets out of the vehicle, tries to run in, ends up getting knocked as he enters the building. And now as Punich finally goes, you know what? I'm going to take the vehicle and I'm going to go over and help. EB pulls up on him and he ends up taking him down. And in my book, all this could have been avoided had Kickstart and Shinboy left the compound when they got pulled up on. Just like Roth did earlier. But because they get the knock as they're trying to drive away, they say, you know what, we got the knock, let's stay here and fight for it. It's some of those small things. Where, and had they then maybe tried to force the fight in an area where Roth could have had more impact, they would have been better off, but it ends up working against them. Just one of those small things. That ends up costing them and they end up going down early. And they only get one kill. They only get 1 point that game because of it. They were the first team in the circle alongside GEX, and they end up going down as the first team as well. Unfortunate. New circle pups. We go up towards the north, and because we have the mountain here, again, unplayable terrain, pretty much in the center of everything. Let me just scroll in. Yeah, that is pretty much the size of the unplayable. Is like that. Because we have this in the center, next circles should be extremely telling of where phase 4 will go. So we'll see now. Infantry out towards the east. Burr ramp up, stay over towards the east side. They're trying to get control and vision to see if we have to leave here, if we have to go somewhere else, we'll try and rotate through. And as you can see, if we rotate back, scroll back a little bit, we have 3 teams that comes in from the west. We did kind of expect that. ESG, attack all around, and day trade all coming in from over here. Trying to find themselves a spot to play from. Both attack all around, and TSG continue revving north around. And up towards the north, ends up taking control of the north side of Oasis. 4 AM, still playing the split they did the day before. And yeah, we saw all this just before. We still have 2 teams towards the south. Gen G, again, a team that's never in a hurry to get to a circle. And Day Trade are splitting around the mountain to try and get some info as well. SDK trying to group up. I believe, yep, one got shot off the vehicle. And this was an interesting pull-up as well. 2 pull-ups in the early game here that were interesting. So Burr Ram right now are in a 3 or 4-way split. They're just playing hilltop control, right? Noatra is on the very hilltop. Konaxi is sitting down here. Edie is looking up in this direction, and Godmeow is looking down in this direction. They have all the info in the universe. They have essentially 4 peaks from where they can see everything. And now let's see. Noatra gets the knock onto Purdy inside the main building. And he goes, huh, I guess I'll pull up on that. No, not the main building, sorry. Oh, it is the main building. It is the main building. So he pulls up on it, but you can see the rest of the team isn't ready to rotate. I think Got Meow's vehicle is down here. He ran up this direction. So he has to run all the way down, get into the vehicle, and then drive down the hill. Canaxi's vehicle is there, but he doesn't go early because you want to be able to keep the vision over the compound. And Edie as well needs to run down, get a vehicle in order to rotate. So now they're going down to help him. He's in a 1v3 right now. They got the res up, they got them, and it's lucky for Noadra that SDK don't do more to push him. Because had they just gone, you know what, we'll just push him 3 against 1. He could have gone down. Now they make the push, but now Burram is coming up. So it's a combination of Noadra rotating before the team is ready to come and help him, and SDK maybe being a little too hesitant in the initial push. Noadra gets the first one, and I believe SDK ends up going down up. Purdy does manage to get away, but just surprising to me how he pulled up. Like, I think maybe he was just feeling it a little too much. Burram does these things sometimes. He was feeling it a bit too much, and ends up they do end up winning, but they do end up losing a player. And I like how immediately after they get the kill, Edie already is sending it up towards the hill because they need the vision. Now we are in that situation where you have a team that is in the lowlands. They have no vision. They cannot see anything outside of what's going on here, right? You can see a little bit over in this direction, but you know what I mean. You have very limited vision from these lowland compounds. Get someone uphill, get some vision, tell us what's going on with the new circle popping. New circle does pop. We go hard northeast, and of course we know that means that a lot of teams are going to be coming in from the west. What do we know for the next circle? And this is again something that surprised me a little bit. What do we know for the next circle? Let's rewind a little bit. Right when the circle popped. There we go. What do we know for the next circle? We know that this, as we drew it before, now that we're heading phase 4, this is going to get shifted away from. We're going to shift away from this pile right here. And then we get to the ultimate mystery question that I honestly don't know the answer to. Because then when I think I know the answer, I get proven wrong by something that happens in game. And then when I feel like I'm wrong, the same thing happens so many times that I think I'm right. But if there's any pro players in chat right now, I want to ask you, if you know, does Oasis count as water? Just like we do out here with phase 4. Because if it does, if Oasis counts as water, then there's only one place this circle can go, and that's over here. But I have every single time, I have said, okay, so it counts as water, it shifts away too often. Then I see a circle that includes a lot of it. And then I go, wait, so it doesn't. And then when I go, okay, it doesn't, then all the circles keep going away. It makes no sense that it shouldn't, right? It's water. I mean, obviously, it is water. So why shouldn't it count as water? But I have had games that end in there too. Exactly. The thing is, if it counts as water, then I'm just so surprised, and I said this during the game as well, then I'm so surprised by why no more teams tried to make it over here. Because if this is shifting away from, like if you're shifting away from this and this, there's really only one place the circle can go, right? It's over here. They do have the exact same settings now, Pog. That's been changed prior to this tournament. This circle, the settings are the same now. Because then we should all know that the circle is going to go over here somewhere. There's no swimmable water in Oasis? I'm pretty sure there is. Isn't there like right up here? The deep water that you can swim in? I'm pretty sure there is, Bull. Some areas where you can swim. The thing is, look at how we spread this now, right? If we do the line like we've done before, cut the line here, kind of through the middle. Alright. We have Esther and half of infantry. We have 3 out of 51 players on the east side of this circle. Of course, it is an east hard shift, so it makes sense that not more people up here. But when you we can do a fast look at how they rotate in. They all rotate into the cramped spots. Only Genji and Oath wrap south around. The remaining 2 day trade players try to as well, but they rotate out too late, and therefore they have to get in before the circle forces them. And then you have TSG and Liquid. They had the little chase they had going over the top as well. But only 2 teams. Only 2 teams do that. Yeah, I was laughing my ass off as well, Ellie. I think there's audio to prove that. I'm so happy that Paper Thin has started reacting pretty much exactly like me when stupid circles appear. It's like, I just cannot hold it in. It's just, as much as I want to be formal and informative and stuff like that, I just laugh my ass off when I see stupid circles, because I know how much the players hate them. At least most of them. Infantry probably didn't hate this circle at all. But either way, when this circle pops, looking at, for example, Enz's position, and knowing Enz is usually a team that likes to get away from those heated edges of the circle, they have a chance to rotate north around. Over on the other side of... It's a very slim, they have to be very quick about doing it, but there's a chance they can get over on the other side. Maybe the issue is that they can't really scout it from where they are. And even if they could, it's incredibly difficult. So they end up not going too far. Squeaky does move, but you can see they try to wrap south around into it. Squeaky tries to push in when attack all around comes over, and they end up getting caught in Oasis. Same thing happens with VP and 4 AM. I did say that I thought that if they see 4 AM there, they'll try and get away, and I think that's what they did, but that wouldn't have saved them at all, because they just run into ends instead. 4 AM, crash up to the edge. I mean, 4 AM is a team that want to be on the heated edges, right? 4 AM wants to be on the side of the circle where all the action is. Your reactions are relatable. Eddie, I'm glad you think so. 4 AM wants to be on this side of the circle, so that makes perfect sense. Multi-circle gaming, they didn't go too far. They came in from the south. They saw Ends leave the warehouse. They had a bit of a race with Virtus Pro to the position, and they end up getting it, and they can try and push themselves further forward. Again, get to the compound instantly, spread out, take control, see if you can prevent anyone else from coming to your side. In the meantime, TSG, Liquid, they know they're late to the race, so they're going to try and wrap north around. I'm just so surprised that no one else did it earlier. Because look at Gen G, they wrap back around Oath, they see Oath down here, and they wrap above them, and then the next circle pops. And again, if Oasis counts as water, this is really the only circle we could get. It shifts out as much water as it can without including any of the unplayable terrain. This is the only circle we could get. As least the lowest amount of water possible, and none of the unplayable terrain. This is the only circle we could get. And I'm just so surprised that no more teams are over here at that point. Because teams are exceptionally good at knowing where circles are going and stuff like that. And this was just surprising to me, that we have so much of all of this and the dip down here be completely free when the next circle pops. Because everyone kind of got trapped up over, ended up stumbling over each other inside the Oasis area. Just surprising to me. When I saw the circle pop, I was like, how did no more teams make their way over there? And I saw Gen G during that, and I was like, oh my god, they're in a perfect position to get literally all the east side compounds. And that's what they did. They go down, they spread out, they take full control. Very well played. And also TSG can go, I guess we'll take a free compound then, if no one else wants it. Day trade, try to push through the center, ends up not really working for them early on. They do have to just kind of turtle down in a shack and sit tight. I believe Nurens ends up getting what? 5th place in the game? Something like that. But now we know, and this is where, 4 AM again, in their prime. They know they're on the heavy edge. They've already taken down the entirety of Freak of Freaks, and now they push further forward. And this was another fun one to me, because while all this is going on, infantry is shooting at everything. They end up getting 15 kills this game. They don't get that many kills early game, but they get a lot of, damage. They didn't shoot at everything. I was surprised. And again, if there's any ENS players or coaches, managers here, I would love to hear from you. Because I thought when I saw your push up towards 4 AM, I was like, oh my god, thank you. This is the ENS that I've been waiting to see. The aggression ENS that have been building over the last, I want to say, half a year? The more aggressive ends than I've been used to seeing. is making this play. But didn't you know that infantry was here? Again, a lot goes down. I'm just curious because I thought that when you pushed up, you would have done something to isolate yourself. Because as far as I remember, it's pretty much only infantry that ends up becoming troublesome. Like, ends up becoming an issue. Because you push out this way, I guess in part because you don't want to be seen by these, but also because you don't want to be shot at by infantry. Oh, no, it's later. Sorry, it's later. I thought they pushed up now. So they push up now. But you're, yeah. They were completely exposed to infantry in that push. And I believe infantry gets 2. Because I like the push. I really like the push. Over the top getting the kills. But then 1 down, 2 down, 3 down. Yeah, infantry gets all of them. That was just surprising to me how, if you knew that... Maybe you didn't know. I thought you would have tried to do something to block off infantry. Or maybe you just didn't know that they were still looking this way. But I really did love the push. I really did like the push. If you threw smokes for him, yeah. That was the other thing that I think I also said during the broadcast, that you could throw the smokes to make sure infantry couldn't see you, but that completely ruins your element of surprise when pushing forward. You just didn't flush them fast enough. So you get over the top. How long time did the fight take? Let's see. This is where you meet each other at 21:40. And you're dead 17 seconds later. And it's Lou that stays alive, right? Yep, it is. So you come over the top. You get one. He goes down to the nade. And that's when they start journeying in from the distance. Yeah. I really love the push though. As soon as it happened earlier, I was like, oh my god, they're actually doing this. Because I saw you pushing in, like pushing into the circle, and I figured either you're going to push up to infantry, or you're going to push up the hill towards 4am. And then when I saw you push 4am, I was like, oh my god, somebody are actually taking the fight to 4am instead of just 4am also always being the ones taking the fight. But then when I realized where infantry was, I was like, oh no, this could go wrong. And unfortunately it did. But I really like the idea. I did really like the idea of making that push. And I think, as you said, Takes Two, had you been faster in getting them down, you could probably have gotten to reset or gotten over that hill that 4am was on. You could have gotten over that hillside before infantry, would have had a chance to engage. So just, I guess, unlucky timing that infantry opted to play that side. Now infantry comes out. They get full control of their ridges. Infantry just played this endgame incredibly well. They have the compound obviously still, and they have their ridge line as well that they can sit on. And A, circle goes towards them. That's of course always useful. B, they're so good at keeping track of where everyone is and what's going on around them. They isolate Yamcha. Now Peng is trying to take the fight to Jake. And you can see while everyone else is trying to fight each other, it's actually the infantry that does the most of the damage. On the other side, obviously, that's not going to happen. Genji and Oath will have to take this fight, or will take this fight against one another. GX now realize, again, we don't want to have anyone playing behind us. Let's go down and wipe them so we can play this snake free. They push down to try and take control. As soon as Mao Yi comes down and hears the shots from the other side, he realizes, great, this is an opportunity for us to back off now. That means that Oath has probably pushed the other direction. And then they can focus on what's happening in front of them. In the meantime, while all this is happening, while infantry knew GX was down here, and while Oath was running the other way, infantry realizes this is our chance to push out and take control. And this is what we see Longsker do so often. In week 1, Longsker had a really good play. They did end up losing the game against DA. But down on the south side of Erangel, down by Sharkfin, Longsker leaves the compound, takes the car out across the beach to hold off... Was it Tianba? Was it GX? Toby, Brain, Function. Who was on that west side? It could also have been a NA team. Was it Sonics? I can't remember now. But either way, Longsker pushed out and took control. And that's what I like about infantry. They're so smart in knowing when to aggress, when to fall back. They are arguably as aggressive a team as many other aggressive teams. But it doesn't always look like it because they also fall back. Like they can, once they aggress, they can be just as aggressive as any 4am, Burram, any aggressive team. But they're also really smart in knowing when to fall back. And I think that's like, that's one of the prime, I guess you can say, values of infantry. So now they know GX have just been occupied looking towards the south. Oath are looking up this way. We know there's a snake doing something up here because we heard the shots fired before. Let's use that opportunity to go out and take control. Longskirt pushes up. He does end up going down, but he's trying to take control. And now GX is focusing him while infantry try and stay split and make, like, again, take some sort of control themselves. Xiaoyang pushes forward, gets an 8 over towards CC. And now, while Bullying is not inside the next circle, he is right now the eye in the sky. He is full control. Like, he is everything that 9 and Xiaoyang needs him to be in terms of getting the info from above. There's nowhere GX now can push 9 and Xiaoyang from where Bullying won't see. The only thing is, they will only have that advantage if they take down Leo and Mao Yi before Bullying is forced to leave. So now is when they go, great. We have this guy in a very good position up on the hilltop. We need to utilize that before it becomes an even playing field. And of course, not completely even because they are 3v2. But still, we need to take advantage of having this guy up here before he's forced to try and leave. So they just instantly send it, even though other teams might have go, you know what, let's just wait, let's get him down, let's play the center, play the dot, we have the circle. They say we want to utilize the fact that we have a player up on the hill that can help us right now, so let's deal with this fast. They push forward, they get the first one down, comes over the side, and I believe it's Bullying who gets Mao Yi down in the end of it, and end up winning the game because of it. So really smart play. Really smart playing from infantry in the end of that one. And I'm still curious to know if Oasis counts as water. Because if it does, then I still have, like, I'm still confused by why we didn't see more teams try and get towards the east. Because that would be, in that particular game, quite literally the only place the circle could have gone towards. Then we need a lot of smooth skip. Exactly. So they knew that they had to finish the game fast while Bullying was still able to play on that hillside. Because as far as I remember, they didn't have their vehicles there either. So he would have been in trouble. And then he might have gone down. He could have been a bait had he tried to run down the hill and they could have pushed around on it. But still, smart by them to realize we only have now. Even though the circle might be good for us, if we want to have the, like, if we want to take the fight while still having the advantage, we need to engage now. Good recognition by infantry in that situation. Heading on over to game number 8. And I'm sorry if if you guys are used to the more quick analysis. I don't know, what do you prefer, viewers? Because I mean, of course we also upload these to YouTube, and some people like when these videos are only, I don't know, 30 minutes short and covering 5 games, and some want them to be 4 hours long. What do you guys prefer? Let me know. Because do you like the longer, more in-depth videos like I feel like we're doing right now? Or do you like it more where we just kind of talk generally about some of the different things that happen and you can kind of go on with your day afterwards? Present speed is good. I kind of like it too. We go into depth. We don't go overly into depth. I would say overly is when you get like VODs from the actual game, or we do get POVs and stuff like that too. That would be, whew, we wouldn't even be done with game 1 yet. Longer is better. That's not true, by the way. And it makes this conversation even more awkward that your name is Granny. Deep analysis is best. Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's continue. Circle down towards the south. Good chance for a military game. Let's see what happens here. Anything interesting? Anything out of the ordinary? I'll ask you, Chad. Are any team in a position they wouldn't normally be in? We do this every now and again. I like to keep you guys on your tippy toes. Are any teams out of position? I will give you 5 seconds to take a look while I take a bite of this cucumber. So I'm getting hungry. Attack all around? Incorrect. They always land there. The fact is that no team really is out of position. You could argue Ents is out of position, but they're not in the position they want to be in yet. Versus Pro and Novo, no, pretty usual as well. I guess the only difference you could say in terms of Virtus Pro is that usually they like to jump early. So you would think Virtus Pro would have maybe gone. I can Batulin, are you still here? Why didn't you go Prim this game? You know what? That's actually not a bad question. Why did you wait to go to Novo instead of just jumping Prim? Is it because of infantry and day trade? I guess it is. Day trade does loot quarry quite often. But I'd love to hear. Maybe they saw there were many teams out early and they figured that they wouldn't want to jump with them. That's a pretty good argument. I don't know if Bertulens is still here, but if he is, would be fun to know. But it probably is the argument that they know that day trade lands down here anyway. So now let's see. This circle was fun. I saw this and pretty similar reaction to what I just did now. True. But then an even better question is, what is better? I guess you would rather actually... Nah, that's not really a question for debate. I was thinking, what is better on a West Side military circle? Being in Novo or being in Prim? Technically, it's a shorter rotation from Prim, but you don't have vehicles when you get to the other side. Yeah, cars. Novo, if you go east, you get 20 kill win. If you come and sit here, you get yourself 16 kills. Or you just whiff everything and allow for like 5 teams to cross over and you end up dying outside the circle for no reason. Boat equals death. That's also true sometimes, and yeah, it is true. Novo is the better decision of the two. I was just you know, theory crafting, thinking, what is the benefit? Because the alternatively, you would have landed way earlier than you do. So if you're really lucky, by the time you land in Novo, you could already be running for a boat from Prim. But it's probably still be Novo. Other teams won't be on the island that fast anyway. SDK down towards the south, obviously splitting here since, well, Esnaya was kind of out of reach. And then again, very good chance for military circle. So that's something. And then down towards the south. When I saw it in the kill feed, because we didn't see it happen initially, I was thinking, why in the universe? And I say universe. Just as much as I've learned not to say to be fair all the time, I have been saying something in the universe. Maybe I should just say, why in the world? Why in the... I don't know. I've gotten better. I've gotten better. We all improve. I was thinking, why would infantry push over this way? I mean, not infantry, a Freak of Freaks, when they know these guys are here. They spent 2 games fighting them the day before, and now they lose a player to them once again. But they actually did try and wrap them. Like, they spent as little time and vision of these guys as possible. They tried to go all the way below and get underneath. So you can't really fault them for trying to get across fast. And TSG were just surprisingly fast in getting up and taking control. So they lose one, Afrika, as they try to push on over. Day trade, go down for boats. They want to get across. GX taking a boat way over. You can't even see that because of my webcam. There they are. GX take a boat up here. All right. Trying to wrap around. Burr ramp, take 2 boats. Svit took the ferry. I loved that. Svit took the ferry across. Hops on the ferry. It sails over. He jumped off here and goes ashore. I thought that was amazing. I also loved how, I believe it was Purdy. No, on Civil, once he got over to the other side, he was looking at the ferry too. I don't think he noticed Poochus early, but he was looking at the ferry as it came out of, ferry pier. I was like, what if there's someone there? But there wasn't. That was just funny. That was pretty funny. He was looking for the ferry. King, you just don't like me, do you? So rude. I'm working on it, okay? But everyone makes their way to the west. No one's camping bridges. I was kind of surprised to see, I mean, of all teams in the universe that could camp a bridge, speaking of universe, infantry. All the teams, they could have set up. But it's pretty difficult to camp the west bridge, especially if you don't want to risk getting killed by other teams. Here, whatever. So Liquid does manage to get across. They try to go up the hill. They manage to push towards the center. And I'm loving how quick SDK were disengaging on this, because they can't really see before they get up to here They hear the vehicles. They go, yep, let's get the hell out of here. Again, we have a 3-way split, which is technically only a 2-way split because I wouldn't consider this being a position until it's just kind of split out from the compound. And he goes, we have a split. This is why we have a split, because we have 2 compounds. Now we can go back to just having 1, and that's fine. They back off. They go down to the shore initially, but then they hear the boat, and they go, great, let's not do that. They go back to the compound. They send Purdy down towards the civil to either pick him up or help him out. And with more teams coming in, they back off towards the north. Makes pretty good sense to me. No reason to overextend your stay. Just back off, play for the later circles. And yes, I know you could get yourself some early game kills. That would be great in the grand scheme of things. But there's also the chance that you end up losing 2 players and you then pretty much forfeit the game. Then this happened. That was also interesting. So Gen G comes over. They get a knock. And I'm not sure if... Okay, so... Is that why you pulled up, Tixu? Because you saw the knock in the kill feed? Because you see a run over, but I'm not sure if you saw... You're all still driving, right? Yeah, you're all driving as well. You see the knock in the kill feed. But do you recognize that it's Gen G and they're here? Or was this just there's a team, let's fight them? It must have been because you realized it was them who got the run over knock, right? I would think so anyway. Because you pull up on them, it's a complete crazy drive-by fiesta. Does end up going down, but it was pretty interesting anyway. And everyone else has made it down here. It was a complete drive-by crazy fiesta situation. And somehow, Gen G stays alive with 3. I'm not sure how that happened. It looked like they were all going to die at some point. What's your opinion on SDK deciding to split and control more grounds versus stacking on the hill compound where they could just crash? This is such a prime spot in the circle. I don't necessarily think this is a prime spot in the circle. It's a good position to be in, but it's very difficult to play. There are multiple angles people can push you from, or like this. And ironically enough, it's kind of weird because even though this is a high ground position with a compound, and as we talked about on Miramar, that's what you want to get. I feel like the things you can see from this compound aren't that valuable. It's pretty interesting because it is a high ground compound and there are some trees. I mean, it's just like the trees. I don't know if it's just game developers having a lot of fun, but the trees that are placed around up here and down the hills as well, just, you can't, I mean, the valuable things to look at or the things you can see from there with your high ground vision aren't all that valuable, in my opinion anyway. You have to kind of push yourself down a little bit, and then when you're peeking towards here, you're also going to be super exposed to the sides. Same thing here. You have to push down here to get some vision, and then you're exposed to other sites and situations. So I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of that compound. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on it in chat. Whether you're a player, coach, viewer, whatever. I just don't. I think this compound is a little overvalued. I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of it. It does make sense that you can stay safe and kind of play kind of a king of the hill position, and usually teams won't crash you all that often, but I don't know. It's good. Woogie, would you like to what do you say? The English word for that. I just forgot how to speak English. Elaborate. Thank you. I couldn't forget that. I couldn't remember. Elaborate. Yes, thank you. Why could I not remember that word? The earlier the zone, the better it is. Makes sense. Makes sense. Hey, Iro. Welcome to the club. Elaborate. Why could I not remember that word? That's not often that happens. Interesting. The earlier that it is, the better it is. Because of info or vision or audio cues or how do you why do you value it better earlier? As long as you're not forced east later, it's a good compound. I would like to hear your thoughts on this. I'm very curious. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on why it's valued better earlier than late. I assume it has to do with later in the game, teams are closer to one another and the third-party threat becomes bigger. You can see stuff, no close compounds or playable spots. Yeah. But then what I was saying before, is there any truth to that on your part? That what you can see from there is, I mean, even though it's a high ground position, what you can see from there is limited. That was my argument for thinking it's not as good a spot as it kind of looks like when you just see it from a map perspective. Because when you're in the compound, it could also just be me remembering completely wrong. It's limited what compounds you can actually get vision on without, to some extent, overexposing yourself. For example, having to push down here to get full vision on this, or having to go a little bit down the hill to get vision here. If people see you in return, you're just potentially knocked in an open hill, and there's no way you don't get flushed. So you can't just sit inside the compound and see everything. You have to go a little bit downhill, and that could potentially overexpose yourself. That was my thought on it, anyway. Big ball to scout. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking, and that's why I think that it's. I mean, not a bad compound. It's just that it, from a map perspective and whatnot, it looks much better than it actually is. It's not as much of a like super duper best compound in this area as it could potentially look like. Thanks again though for taking time to share your thoughts on it. That's both valued a lot by me, and I'm sure also valued by a lot of the viewers in chat. Let's continue while we keep this compound in mind and see how effective it ends up becoming in this. Multi-circle gaming, they end up trying to pull up, doesn't work out, they get forced off, they take the fight over towards Liquid, and and then things happen. Tank is alone in the compound. Yeah. You have the clear connection between the two. 100%. This position can, as you can see, grant a lot of vision on both sides in terms of who can pull up on you or who will pull up on you, and it can be a pretty helpful. Not stepping stone is the wrong word, but like anchor point for anyone in that compound. So Mexi gets one, goes back inside, ends up getting mollied. James comes down to try and help. He gets one. Tank is now alone. James ends up going down, and then Poo Juice from afar hits a banger of a headshot on towards Clip. EB, did he get tagged trying to get down the hill? He must have, because there's no way he was full HP when he came driving in. He slams the vehicle headfirst into the wall and ends up killing himself. And then Tank is like, well, I guess that just happened, and he gets to stay alive. Just, this compound was the center of a lot of weird fights in this game. And all of a sudden, this hill is free. And Virtus Pro, very reactive team. They see Liquid leave, they hear the fight, and it doesn't take more than a few seconds before they're sending it up the hill to claim the compound. Smart rotation by VP, claiming an area they know for a fact is free, and GX on the backside of that, they see VP leave, they come and they take. Unfortunately for them, Leo is kind of caught out of position from EJ. They will have to spend time trying to clear it, but they still do manage to get themselves a good compound off of it. Liquid failed there. Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say. And yes, we will see VP try and push into that compound in just a moment as well. Genji in the meantime, and this is funny, I didn't get to talk about it during the game, but I mean we did briefly mention it, but if we look back at games that look very similar to this one, Genji, not only do they always want to be on the, we talked about heated side of the circle before, I'm gonna call it the heated and cold side, depending on where we're expecting a lot of fights to happen. Genji, they always, and I'm not going to say always as in 100% of the time, but really often are the team that is still on the, I guess you could say, main island, while everyone's on the other side. Same thing with other circles. When we have let me make a random phase 3. When we have these type circles, Genji are oftentimes that one team that is still sitting over here. I don't know why it says Ogo. It was supposed to be circles. They're oftentimes the one team that sits on the other side. That sits on the like very cold side. They'll do that for a very long time. It's just fun to see. It's kind of become a really, really big thing of their strats. They will do everything in their power to find the side of the circle where there's the least action, and they'll try and sneak their way in from there. And I guess there's very little action on the side of the circle here. Fortunately for them, they get to stick around for a little while longer because the circle hard shifts into the water. And this is crazy because when we talked about, as we did before, circles having to center up on land, if we kinda, yeah, I guess it's kinda, this is the center enough, and we'll say just above here. So the center of this is there. There is not a lot of land, but it is on land, and therefore it is a viable circle. It's just very, very close to the water. It's gonna go up there. We have entry points, of course, all the way across the edges, and the main issue with trying to rotate into this is, as Wookie was talking about before, this whole area you can't really do a whole lot with until all these compounds are out. So for teams that try to push their way up now and maybe sit on the hillside, they would not only get probably pushed down by or engaged on by Virtus Pro, they would also, let's say it's Buriram that are just going up to try and play here or here. They would also have all these teams. Now, they don't know that this is free, but they would also have these teams shooting towards them if they were trying to make their way up the hill. So for now, until all these compounds are out, this is going to be, I don't want to say impossible, but very, very difficult to make use of. Similar over towards the east, this hillside, because infantry is up here, they can't really do a whole lot with it. And I'm loving that infantry is sitting up here, because even though they're only they are 4 life. Sorry, Longskirts is down towards the south. With the circle popping, they know if they were just sitting in the compound and a team was up here, it would be incredibly difficult for them to do anything. So while this compound is great to have, it's good for hard cover, they cannot use this for anything. If there's a team that just sits up here and waits for them to leave, they will never be able to get out of the compound. So they know they have to prioritize this. That's why they have 2 on the hill and only 1 inside the compound, as opposed to 2 down here and 1 up here. This is the more important spot of the 2, because while the hard cover is great, we have to make sure to have the hill under control, because if we don't have this, that spot all of a sudden doesn't really, I don't want to say it don't matter, but it's not halfway as good as it is when you have all control of this as well. So new circle pops. Longskirts knows that there will be teams coming in from the east. We have a lot of players still down here that might want to crash this, try and rotate further forward. So he's going to go, nope, I'm going to back off, and the team goes down. Not down, but they go down the hill. They know there's going to be teams coming in from the east. We cannot do this. So now is where we, turtle down is wrong, but they're expecting a lot of heat on the east side of the circle coming in here, because this is one of your few entry points to the circle. You can crash a city, or crash the compounds, and hope that you can claim them and then push out. And I think for infantry, the hope is that more than one team will do it. Exactly what happens. Oath and attack all around end up fighting for it. And maybe they're expecting more teams to come over the top. Keep in mind, while sitting up here, they have no clue what's happening down here on the south side. So they don't know how many teams are down there. So they can hope that, first of all, a lot of teams will die here, and the teams that survive will still be taking casualties. After that, if we have 2 teams pushing up the hill here, then by backing off now and keeping 4 alive in the compound, we'll be able to push up, take the fight later, and then we'll be off to a better fight than trying to sit up here now, take control, and get pushed on by teams that are still not wounded or vulnerable. So they'll sit down in the compound for now. They heard Zenith trying to wrap it on down. They force them back towards the shack, and here comes Gen G finally crossing the bridge, and they have made it across. 3 players there, all of them sitting tight. Of course, they lost 1 against Ens earlier, and now is when infantry start getting locked on in. They can't do a whole lot from this compound right now, because now Gen G has gotten control of the hill. We have the 2 teams that we talked about just before over here. Buriram, by the way, smart rotation on their part, grabbing through military all the way up here. Smart rotation, as opposed to trying to take control in the south, where there really isn't anything they can play. They opt to go over the top. Infantry, realizing they now have a team up here, they have to just accept that. They can't do a whole lot about it. That's just how it is, at least for now. But they also know at some point later on in the game, like they sit here, they can go, our time will come. It's not right now. We don't have to force the issue. We don't have to push out right now. Our time will come. And their time is going to be when all these teams, as you can see, I mean, they are very, very far on the edge of the circle. When whatever this happens, like whenever this engagement down here comes to an end, and one of those teams are trying to push up the hill, whenever that happens, and Gen G are here to take the fight to them, that is when we strike. So they know they have a third party brewing. They just have to wait for it to be done. Or be ready, I guess you can say. Just have to wait for the situation to be ready. Loki comes down in the meantime, tries to scout forward, want to see what's possible. And again, I think infantry are pretty well aware that Gen G have no plans of pushing into this compound. They will try and take control up here and push in as the last team. Only thing is, there can only be one team. There can only be one team up here. You can have a solo player prone his way into the circle here, sure, but there can only really be one team up on this hillside. And infantry knows if they time it right, they will become that one team. In the meantime, down towards the south, this happens. So Tank somehow survived the push from Virtus Pro. He doesn't manage to survive the push from GEX. I was actually surprised to see him survive for as long as he did, but he does go down in the end of it. They did get a knock, but nothing more comes of it. And Circle goes towards the south. You can see now, again, we don't want to sit in the compound anymore. Now is when we start taking control, because now, as Wookie also said before, is when this compound might start losing its value, with teams being able to start pushing up towards us, because all these compounds are out. You can now play the backside. So Batulans and Lu both going down to make sure that no one is able to push up towards them. And while all this is going on, of course, they try to take control as well. You can see Batulans constantly shooting down the hill, trying to, if any players push up in this direction, the fewer the better. The less they have to worry about this, the more they can focus about this and having to make their way into the circle at a later point. In the meantime, infantry, they've upped to stay because this fight never happened. Gen G never really got too much in on the action of all of that, which I guess for infantry is kind of sad, because I am very convinced, and this is where I would love to have infantry players in the chat as well. I'm very convinced that had, let's say, Buriram gets a full-on wipe and attack all around quickly, they get to push up the hill. If they then also get a knock on, let's say, one or two of the Gen G players, infantry would have full speed sent it up there. That was, as we said before, that was their time. That was their chance to push forward and get a lot of damage done towards them. But since that doesn't happen, and infantry is still in the circle, they go, well, we didn't get our third party opportunity, but let's just wait a little longer, because Gen G can only sit out here for so long. And we know at some point they're probably going to have to push forward, or Virtus Pro will spot them, and we will have a chance to push up. They wait a little longer. They say our third party chance will come. We just have to wait for it. Now, Boliang, Longsker, go down on the shoreline. There's like the cliff formation that you can run on the water side of. Maybe they're getting a little impatient at this point because the fight up here never happened early enough that they wanted it. And they go, great. Okay, so now the blue is on us. Our third party opportunity never arose. Arised? To arise in past tense. Arose? I am, my English is all over the place today. One tries to go underneath, not gonna happen. And now, finally, 15 eternities later, it happens. Gen G is fighting. And who is the immediate team to react to it? Infantry. They've been waiting for this. For the last 3 circles, they've been raiding. Not arousal. Those are 2 very different things. And you could see, as soon as it started, they were there. They had to wait a little second because Longsker was still down here and had to get all the way back. But they knew, we have to wait. And patience paid off for them. Because finally, they come up and they can take the fight to Zenith, who then, in the end of it, are forced to back off. And then this happened. This was also fun. Just going back to that compound of doom, because that's where we want to go. So they threw... I should go back and watch the VOD on this, because I think they threw at least 6 nades. And I want to say maybe 4 or 5 mollies. And they didn't get a single knock. CC was in the bathroom. Smart position from him to be in, because he knows that if Hiruzen goes on the west side of the building to try and throw something through the window, he'll get shot up by all these players. So Hiruzen ain't going to be playing this side because he's going to be exposed to that. So he's going to stay on this side or play on the inside with the shack for cover. Batulans, Batulins on the other side is trying to get himself a good angle, trying to throw mollies in. But Mao Yi is up on the little cupboard, up on the little bed table or whatever you want to call it, dresser. And mollies don't reach him there because PUBG. And he's going to sit tight for a good while. So right now it's a 4v4 on the building. I like how they're playing it. One in the bathroom, one in the cupboard, and two playing behind the building in a position where they can't be seen by other players. They throw the nades for 16 years, nothing happens, and then they go, great, now we have to push. And as they start to push, CC jumps out the window, gets a surprise angle on one. Batulins falls down as he gets inside the building, and you go, oh no, VP, you threw this, you lost. Oh, sucks to be you, bro. But Hirusen was still alive. And if there's one spray that CC is regretting that he didn't hit. Because he was shooting like a madman at Hirusen. I think he got at least a half mag off and hit like 2 or 3 bullets. He completely whiffed on him when he had a chance to get the flush there. There would have been GX getting a chance to res Yan Li. Maybe Zenith would have pushed down on it, but they would have been 4 alive in this next circle. Could have tried to push out on foot, maybe force a fight down to day trade because they still had their vehicles. It wouldn't have been an easy play still, but they would have stayed alive. Instead, CC misses the spray, gets taken down by Hirusen. He gets the second one on Mao Yi as he comes around. Yan Li has already fallen down from the nade earlier. I believe that's actually, no, it can't be. It can't be. I thought it was Punich who threw the nade, but I believe it's Hirusen's nade that takes him down. Leo around the side. They end up having a bit of a skirmish there, and he gets all the kills. First of all, that should have never happened. Show the bot. You know, we'll do that. We'll do that. Is it clipped? It should be clipped, right?
This match, what was I excited to see? And
Clips.
we saw teams come out left and right here.
Up 7 days. I guess it's gotta be under the bus. Got Iro. Shotgun OP. 1v4 Molotov. Nice timing. Is it not one of the most viewed clips? Who would have thought that it was? And no one's clipped it. Sonic's NA driving, squad wipe. Not that one either. We could also just go through the VOD and find it, but do we want to do that instead? Okay, I'm not gonna do it right now. I want to do this while we're doing it for the recording as well. If one of you guys can find the clip, just ask for permission, and you can we can show it in chat. But right now we'll continue. It was a pretty crazy fight. Hirusen should have never ever won it. GX played it extremely poorly, and I mean Hirusen did play it well, everything considered. But GX, there were so many ways they could have pushed it better together. CC pushes out alone. Mao Yi is not there to help him yet. He ends up going down. Mao Yi is like CC peaks at an angle where Hirusen can take the 1v1 without Mao Yi being able to interact. Let's watch this. There we go. With Japanese, with Korean commentators too. That spray should have killed Hirusen. You don't want to miss those. I can miss those. I'm a caster. I'm supposed to miss those. But when you're a professional PUBG player, you don't hit. Did you have an extended mag? No. So you don't hit 11 bullets at that distance and don't get the knock. So that's the first one gone down. CC gets headshot from... oh, that's what happens. You can see it now. His health goes down. He gets headshot by Roth from afar. He did have an extended mag. That just makes it even worse. He did. It's not 11. It's 21 bullets. It's, yeah, 21 bullets and 3 bullets connected at that distance. That is just even less optimal. CC ends up getting headshot. That's of course just really unfortunate timing, but I believe it's Kickstart or Punich that headshots him from behind. He ends up going down to Harusen as well. And then there's why you have a... So, Mao Yi... Harusen only has this little rock for cover, like this little edge of the fence for cover. And Mao Yi is not in a position to double peek with CC, but is also not holding the angle for the flush. Instead, he starts running to the right while CC is trying to shoot. And then instead of looking, because there's only one place he can be, as you can see here, he only has that little piece of the wall for cover, right? So instead of just holding the right side angle, he's trying to sprint all the way over, like at least do like side strafing so you can aim while running. He's just straight up running over towards the shack for reasons unknown to me. You can see him trying to run across, get behind the vehicle, instead of just holding the angle and shooting at him. I'm loving this. And then in the end, you have Leo. And it's just 3 1v1 fights for no reason. They could have pushed it as 3 together. Yes, I know. You can see it's Kickstart that actually gets Mao Yi down in the end of it. Or gets the flush on him. But there were so many ways they could have forced it into a at least a potential 2v1. But they made it 4 individual 1v1s. And that just ain't it. That just ain't it. Unfortunately for them. So that's the summarize of what ends up happening there. Now I hope my video doesn't get taken down for DMCA because I used other footage. That's why normally I don't use clips in my analysis streams, because I have had it happen before where I wasn't allowed to use the VOD clips. So now I have to actually reach out to PUBG Corp and ask if it's okay when I upload it to YouTube. We'll see. We'll see. Zenith does manage to stay alive. They get Harusen down at the end of it. They try to wrap over the edge. They try to push in. Not going to happen. Day Trade gets them taken down. And I think Day Trade played this game incredibly well as well. So they came over early. If we just rewind. All right. They came over early, and the way they've been, I mean, yes, okay, the circles have gone in their way, but they kept playing on the shorelines, and I think they played it incredibly well. They stay down here, they wrap up towards the compound, they see that it's free, they take control early on, circle pushes, they wrap back, shoreline again. Now they know Hansia is down by the water, they gotta deal with him, they cannot have snakes around. They have one constantly, Puchu's is looking over in this direction, they have one constantly looking over there. They spread out, they take control, send Neurons in. Again, remember, they came in on foot, they don't have any cars. They do not have cover out here other than the few vehicles that they have available. They do not have cover, so they have to play around what little cover the terrain gives them, right? They have the shack up here. Flash has a tree, I believe, over on that side. Vanotika and Puchus, again, all he's been doing is looking at Hansia. Vanotika comes over and says, great, you know what, it's about time we deal with him. Let's take him down. I've been sitting here. I've been looking this way. There's no pressure coming from the southeast. Let's take care of what of the player up here. They come up, they take him down. Vanotika throws a nade, and now, again, pearls on a string. They can completely split out, take full control, and say, what is our next threat now? Now we have to make sure that STK, if they push up, because all this stuff is happening over here, right? If STK wants to push anywhere from the compound, we have to make sure they don't do this. We have to force them to do this. So if we show enough presence on the west side, if we show enough presence over here, we can force STK to run up the other way. Not only are they closer to the engagement up there, but it's also better. It's just better for us that we don't get them up close, because we never know if this comes to an end. This could happen. Right now, there's a big, you can't really see it on the map, but there's a big open field from here down towards this like hill thingy over here. This is just a big valley, a little bit downhill and then flat all the way down here. Norrens knows. Norrens is sitting here on the shack and see where he's peeking. He's looking in this direction. Norrens knows that he needs to maintain this, because if they all, like let's say SDK pushes up here, they get a knock or two on day trade. Similar story to what we saw with 4 AM in the previous game. Norrens would have to give up this angle and come down and help. Obviously, if they got 2 players knocked, he would have to come down and help his teammates that are currently fighting a team up close. They don't want to have that happen, because Norrens wants to be able to maintain control of this. If GX survives this, or if VP survives this with 4 alive, and they realize these guys are fighting down here without having someone playing contain on this side, they could just run over in third party, and that would be the death of these teams down here. So really like it that they trade preemptively before even realizing whether SDK are coming their way or not, are going down here, putting kind of their foot in the ground and saying, you are not coming up this way, we want you to go the other direction. That's exactly what happens. SDK forces the fight on the other side, and Venotica is now playing contain here, saying if anything comes our way, I will give info, I will shoot, I will tell you guys, and we can deal with it then. In the meantime, Norrens is looking over here, watching all the chaos unfold. Just really smart splitting out from day trade in the end of that. In the end of the game, Kickstart tries to stay alive. Circle goes away from him. That's rest in peace for him. Not a whole lot he can do from the position he's in. Uncivil gets a very, very, very late game crate with an arm in it. Tries to see if he can do some damage with it. Again, very similar situation to... I guess it's similar and in terms of terrain, completely opposite, but still kind of has the same impact as the game we just saw with infantry. Because right now, they have and you can't call it eye in the sky, because he's further down the hill than his teammates, but he can still see over the top of the head of all his teammates. He can sit and see the ridge line here. Day trade knows about this. And instead of peeking over, I believe it's one player that peeks over, he hears the arm and he goes, yep, nope, I'm just not going to peek that again. What we do instead is we prone down, and some might call it, oh, boring, they're just prone, blah, 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 snake, snake. But instead of peeking over into an arm down the hill, and that way giving info to Uncivil where they are, and SDK can spread out accordingly, instead of doing that, they prone down, they await, and they say, we will let them come on the hilltop. We will let them come to the hilltop. We will stop. We will not peek in. We will let them come over the top. We'll just play our split right now and wait for them to at least lose this guy. Because while he's on the roof, he can look over them. Once he's down here, he's going to be below them and behind them, meaning he won't be that extra factor. So for now, if we time it right, if we time it so that Uncivil is down and we engage, it's going to be a 4v3 until Uncivil gets there. So they wait, they wait, they wait. They want him to come down. Now the fight happens a little early. Puchus goes down instantly, and you can see Uncivil is full speed sprinting up the hill. Norrens still trying to get an offside angle. It's a 3v3. Luke went down as well. They commit to the rest, or they try to. Venotica does throw the molly in, gets him down. Flash over the top, goes down. Pretty courteous traded immediately after. Commits to the rest. Gets him back up, as they know that they're trying to wrap on the side. And right now, because Uncivil is here, Uncivil was the anchor point, the guy in the compound that played the anchor. They have lost all kinds of info on what happens. Like if we draw up the kind of plateau, there's a bit of a, let's do it this color. There's a bit of a plateau. This is like the flat top of the hill. Maybe it's even less than this. It's probably more like that. And everything else is kind of downhill on all sides, right? So by Uncivil pushing over this side to help, they have now lost all control of what happens over here, obviously, because they are now wrapping around. They're taking the fight down here, 2v2. Purdy is crawling for info. Nice trade, 1-for-1. Flash goes down the end of it, becomes a 2-for-1 for SDK. And Norrens still knows they have no info on what happens up on the top side. All that SDK knows is these guys were down here, these guys were close. Norrens tries to come down to get the res up. Not gonna happen. And now, while they continue their swipe around, because they want to play together, this is how SDK plays, and they very often do extremely well when it comes to it. While they want to maintain the sweep, they want to maintain the control and play together, Norrens crouch runs over on the other side. He goes, how can I split this into 2 1v1 battles? If I allow them to peek together, yes, I might get a knock, but there's a very good chance that the second guy will kill me, thereby losing the game. He gets around the side behind them. He knows they will probably have one on the top, one on the bottom, so that they can peek together. Spots the guy on the top, takes him down, then it becomes a straight up 1v1, and he instantly takes down Alo as well. Very well played by Norrens in understanding the terrain and managing to, in a very difficult situation, separate the two guys from each other. He knows that when you push around the side, you will always have one guy that runs further up than the other, as you try and kind of breach around. One will be playing the low, looking around, and one will be playing up, looking down. He finds the guy up top from the other side, and then when the other guy comes over the hill, it's a new 1v1 fight. Just really well played by ignorance in that situation. That was game 8. Again, thank you all for the follows that are coming in. It is truly appreciated. I hope you're enjoying the videos or the analysis. And let's now hop over to game number 9. I'm gonna take a sip of water while we let the it's monster water while we let the plane fly through. You counted 4 pro players in chat. Ever considered to have them join via Discord? Could do that. I mean, if pro players were interested, that'd be great fun. We could do as like special features. We could do where we focus on one team and have one of the team members join in. I'd love to do that. I've had that before a while back now. I did it with I had one with Ivel when they were soaked in Nam, and then I had one with K-Mind and Nerf when they were on Cloud 9. And we did like team analysis videos where we took a few different games and talked about them. We could do that here too. That's actually not a bad idea. If the players would be interested, of course. Han, thank you so much for the Prime Gaming sub. Much appreciated. And now let's get going with game number 9. The second to last game. Or as they say, the penultimate game. I hear that word a lot. Penultimate. I didn't even know that was a word until I started casting PUBG. Penultimate. Day trade. Forcing, not a fight, but just going my car now to infantry. Stealing some vehicles. Wouldn't end up having the biggest impact, but still, it's a thing. And other than that, really nothing mention worthy in terms of landing spots. SGK, they have a plane that allows them to go back towards Naya. Oh, they can jump out early. VP again down towards the south. And yeah, that's pretty straightforward, all in all. Let's see. Circle pops up towards the center. We have a pretty good divide of land on both sides, so no guarantees so far on where it's going to go. And then, again, as we've said so many times before, this is where teams would normally try and claim some sort of land on both sides. Have players set up here, have control on the other side, take control of the wizard, have garden and the hillside, have this and granny. Do some sort of a split, or at least have an easy access point to the other side of this of the river, so that once the circle does go to either one side, we will know for a fact which side is you will have an easy transition and not have to fight teams to try and get across. Liquid splitting out of a chinky early on. Did they do this instantly? No, they didn't. Okay, so Mex is landing out here, and then they start splitting with the circle popping. That makes more sense. I was thinking that even we had landed in the yellows without a vehicle. I was like, that doesn't even begin to make sense. But nope, they do leave out a little later. Squeaky goes down towards plane crash. Scouts further forward from there. And everyone else are going to be rotating in. So right now, as you can see, because we have the entire south side of the beach occupied, we have, team over here, Freak of Freaks, TSG, attack all around, infantry, day trade. They're just teams all along the south side, which means there's obviously going to be a lot of teams coming in from the south. That does mean that if you're a south side team, not a south, but like if you're a Pachinko team, if you're a Chopsticks team, anywhere here, you want to make your way a little further up. If you stick around down towards the south, there's going to be a lot of players coming your way, and you have the fear of potentially having a team come to force a fight to you early on. So sorry for burping. They all, for the most part, will try and just get a little further in to the circle early on. TSG end up losing. No, it's 4 a.m. Oh, this was so much fun. We see God V. He's standing and scouting, and you can see it's just a really, really unfortunate timing. So Yamcha is driving across. God V stops his vehicle to go scout, and Peng, for a brief moment, becomes a 4 a.m. player. They become 5 a.m. They wake up a little later during the day, you know? Peng goes silent on his buggy. He just stops the vehicle. It's like the easiest kill in the universe. Godby is standing still on the hillside, scouting forward, trying to see if 4M can push over towards the yellow houses. Peng, silence up, goes, hello, Godby, shoots him, and they keep rotating. It's so funny. Because, I mean, there's vehicles all over the place. 4 of them are driving around themselves. Godfrey comes up and says, nope, we can't take it. And then wait, there's more vehicles than 4 here. And Godfrey goes down. And as I said during the broadcast, the power of the silent pull-up. It's a rather terrifying one, that's for sure. So pretty interesting. In the end of it, get themselves a freebie in that one. Now let's see. Circle starts closing on in. Again, as I was saying before, you want to have control on both sides. And the players are showcasing it pretty perfectly here. The 3 teams here that were up close, or that were by the water close, have done exactly that. Control on both sides. Control on both sides. Control on both sides. You want to have an entry point. You want to have a cross point where if this next circle goes up there, if this next circle goes down here, you can then commit to one side. And teams are setting that up pretty what do you say? Pretty obviously, I guess. It's pretty straightforward how they're doing it. Next circle doesn't guarantee us where we're going, but it does mean that that at this point, I feel like you have to commit. Zenith cannot maintain this split. I wouldn't assume to see Gen G try and sit out like this as well. Mainly, now we know Gen G, the further away you can get from the heated side of the circle, the better off they are. And if we look at where the teams are going to be coming in from, this over here is not to be considered a quiet side of the circle. This is going to be a very hectic side of the circle. So Gen G going to get the hell out of there. Bury down towards the south, they're going to find themselves a doable entry point, but it's going to be difficult knowing that there's probably going to be a team up towards the cube. And still, I feel like this is a good opportunity for Virtus Pro, for Oath, for Liquid if they want to, for Infantry if they want to try and rep back east. Maybe not all the way over here, but then at least over like this. Or you can go like that. Or you can, I mean, you could even just go like that or like this over towards the east, because odds are with the circle going back east that there's going to be way less players over here than you have over here, and that's true, as we can see. So we'll see. Infantry ups to rotate around the west regardless. Gen G, they get up, they get over on the other side. They say we do not want any part of that southwest commotion. Oath wrapping east. So Virtus Pro doing the exact same thing. Liquid trying to rep towards the east up towards Rozhok. Again, since we don't know yet, we still don't know which side of the water the circle is going to go to. There's a big portion of land up here that would argue that there's a good chance it will go up there, but there's no guarantees. In the meantime, ENS scouting forward. They spot themselves a compound. They go, maybe we'll go for it. Uncivil gets tagged by Tixu, and they crash it. Uncivil leaves. ENS gets a compound. And I said during the broadcast, and if there are still ENS people here, I would like to know whether or not they will agree with me. If you're still here, Chixu, if Sentex is here, Squeaky, don't care. I just want to know. I said during the broadcast, had this been ENS a year ago, they wouldn't have crashed the compound. Is that true? Have you gotten more? And I think ballsy is not the right word. But have you gotten more? I don't know. Not aggressive either. But more demanding maybe in the early game than you previously were. Or would you still have crashed that a year ago? Or a half year ago for that sake? I think, at least the way that I've analyzed the way that you guys play, if there's any of you here, or if you watch the VOD, I think previously the ENS would have stuck on the outside and said, nah, we don't want the compound, there's a chance we get crashed there too. But they've started playing a little more, they've sharpened their teeth a little, you know? And they kick out on Civil. And it makes perfect sense. It's a good compound to take, and in the end, it will turn out to be a pretty smart compound to have with the circles going that direction. I just thought it was interesting that that they did it. Not positively interesting that they went for it, because in the past I wouldn't have expected them to do so. Infantry, they wrapped over the North George Bridge. They're going to be way up there. Virtus Pro wrapping south around will have to take the fight. This was unfortunate. I roots and running in circles around Jayers for like 3 minutes. And then in the end, the fight would happen. And the circle, as we see, does go towards the north. Now, Lou is in this compound, and he's been a solo player for quite a while. And as I said again during the broadcast, the reason that no one crashes him is he's literally shooting at everything he can. He's running around, and every time he sees a player, he's shooting at them. It's gonna be very difficult for a team that is coming in late or whatever to know if it's just a solo player in this compound, because he shoots as much as 3 players would. He's just shooting at everything. Every time he sees a player, he's shooting. Maybe if he doesn't see a player, he's still shooting. Keep shooting all the time to make players that are coming in late know that it's only a solo player. Maybe it's STK knows. Maybe STK knows that it's just a solo player up there, but they don't care so much right now because they already have a compound to play from, right? Multi-circle gaming already have a spot in the circle. It's not that important for them to get this right now. But as long as the teams that are coming in late that haven't had a chance to scout this don't crash it, Louis is gonna be alright for now. Just pick up 2 damage. Yeah, I mean, or just swap back and forth between your guns and keep shooting at things. True. Daytrade had a perfect chance to push down here. Solo player. Had they known this, probably looking back at the VODs, they're going, oh my lord, why the hell did we not just push this? They would have been able to get themselves a really good spot. But you can see Louis shooting one, like, alone. He's trying to shoot up towards ends. He knows there's a full team up there, but he's just going, you're not going to shoot at me without me shooting back at you. And you see they come down, they scout it, but they hear him shooting all the time, and they go, well, maybe that's more than one player. Also, Daytrade is an absurdly passive team, so they don't push it. They play passive on the side instead. He jinxed the EU teams all weekend. I don't think that's how it works. Not sure how that's how it works. In the meantime, on the west side of the circle, and this is why Gen G tends to want to get away early on, they end up getting pulled up on by Zenith. They were keeping their eye on what was going on over here with GX and infantry. You can see Anonix outside in the blue now trying to do some damage. They're setting up in a position to try and hold off whoever wins this from coming inside, but underneath them, while they're looking the other way, comes Zenith, and then they're forced to take this fight. Anonix is miles out of position. He's actually behind my webcam, sorry. Anonix is out of position. Pio still looking over here, and Loki and Esther alone have to now take the fight to Zenith. And what they have to do is either A, get a knock quickly, or B, make sure that that they can buy enough time for their teammates to get over there. How did EB get knocked here? In the south? We'll take that in a second. Let's take this first. Fight escalates, infantry again. Ooh, a third-party opportunity. That's a good thing. Ents as well. Thank you, Ents. Don't sit in the compound. They push out. They have Tixu and Squeaky on the hillside. Again, more aggressive than what I've seen from them in the past, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Ents have impressed me a lot lately. They push out. They try to take control. They get themselves a third party opportunity. They go, you know what? We got 1 kill. We got 2 kills. Let's just back off a little bit, and then we'll take the fight to infantry. Backing off, going back towards the compound. No reason to overextend. Just go back, hold it from around the compound. Now they see them rotate north around. They can go back in and try and hold from there. In the meantime, over towards the east. All right. The fight we saw before. James playing extremely well inside the wizard tower. He had a tag all around, pushed down towards him, and he holds off extremely well. Now Clip is running over to help. EB is sitting up here trying to help. Mexi trying to get over the top and make sure that they can't push down this way. And in the meantime, while doing so, Patulans comes over. They goes, oh, okay, there's an opponent there. EB shoots at him, giving up his position to attack all around, and ends up getting naded by Svit. I believe he ends up getting naded by Svit. And that's how he went down. If that makes sense. I'm pretty certain he got naded. He shot at VP as they came crossing over, and Swit nades down as he knew where he was, because he started shooting. So he goes down. Swit wants to get the kill on him. Not gonna happen. Tries to go back. Ends up going down to James. JRS is on his own. Circle has shifted away. And while Liquid were focused in this direction and VP got into position here, it's now becoming incredibly difficult for Liquid to find a way into the circle, as they can't swoop underneath. VP are there. They can't run over the top because they haven't dealt with all of attack all around. And they know there's going to be more teams up here holding them off. So a really tricky situation for them to be in because VP got to push underneath. This is another fun one to me. So At this point, we know the circle is going to go north, because this is phase 3. Phase 4 is going to go away from the water. TSG, I'm surprised they don't opt to try and leave earlier. Peng and Yamcha are playing on the south side. Yamcha, for some reason, sits down here trying to 1v3 Burry Ram. That ain't going to happen. Peng comes over to the compound. Now they've given up their one crossroad they could go with. They know that they have Virtus Pro playing underneath on the other side. And this is one of those, okay, where do we go now then? What do? We can't move before Burry Ram has left us alone. And the circle just went north as we knew it would. So now we're going to have to go into the water and try and see what we can do. It's phase 4. It's going to be difficult. They're trying to come over the bridge. They have to take the fight to Liquid. They end up just all dying to blue. Or I believe Spiro ends up going down there. Just a stupid play is the wrong word, because that's not right. It doesn't make sense to me that they didn't try and fortify this, hold out Burry Ram from crossing up, and then cross over the bridge themselves. Instead of having to sit in the blue, allow Burry Ram to dictate the pacing of when TSG could move, and then play late over the bridge. Then at least just leave earlier and try and go over the bridge and take the fight to Liquid then. Just confusing to me that they opted to do it the way that they did. So they end up going down up towards the north. Burry Ram, they get over the top. They get themselves into position. Now they have a 4v4 potentially. Push down towards Ends. God Meow gets taken down by Rustenma. He's the one holding the ankle there. And Ends are all playing from inside the compound now. They don't need to push out. They don't need to try and take control. Edie and Konaxi push in. Full-on brawl fight. Ends up being complete cluster. They all end up going down. Ends sweeps them within seconds. Great hold. Thumbs up to Ends. Taking out Burry Ram. And down towards the south. Batulin's going to try and make his way in. Not going to happen. And I loved how Afrika Freaks played this game. So, and still, Lewis on his own in the compound. Afrika Freaks, watch how they play this. They have maintained full control. They push up. Force out day trade. I mean, they're just saying buffer. They're not over-aggressing. They're not pushing up towards this oath and day trade fight. They're just sitting here and saying, you can fight all you want over here, but you're not going to pass this line. You're not going to come towards us. So if they can keep doing this, they do it up here. They do it down here. Oops. And if they can keep doing that, they know we have all this. We have all this. They don't have an actual car fort, but they have a fortification. And they know they have space on each side. So even if a team does come towards them, they will know it fast enough that they can regroup and take the fight to them, right? So they're sitting here, EJ, trying to make sure no one's trying to sweep this way. And while he can do that, here's Multi-Circle Gaming fighting in the south. He goes, guys, they're fighting down here. You do you. Go have fun in the north. Make some more space for us later in the game. The rest of the Afrika players can now go up here, fortify, and hold in case any of these players try to run this way. Just really smart playing with 4 alive. EJ, then... Again, and that's what I like about Afrika Freaks. They are very, very, very good. And I mean, and now I don't speak Korean, but they have to have very good communication in order to be able to pull off some of the plays that they do, because they're relying so much on individual info. Where, for example, STK, they're more of a let's group up and push over here together. Afrika Freaks do so much in like 1-1-1-1 splitting, 2-1-1 splits, 3-1 splits, where the solo player is like they rely a lot on individual knowledge and plays to be made. Where many other teams, they try and brute force their way forward more. I like that from Afrika Freaks. Now, this was a little surprising to me. Purdy Curdy lobs a nade over and gets 2 knocks, and I understand that he wants to push on it, but I'm surprised why Alo didn't go with him. He gets the double knock, and yes, I know. I mean, you get the double knocks, that means there's at least 1 more player left alive. Maybe they know that VP lost 1 already, but why does Alo not go with him? That was a little surprising to me. This ended up being a really weird, them standing next to each other inside a billion smokes. But Alo just backs off. He just runs away. Going, well, Purdy, this is on you. You go have fun on your own over there. Let's hope that you can get him down. And then he ends up dying. Again, a situation similar to what we saw with the day trade push on Miramar earlier today. Where it went either commit to it and get the kill. Push over us 2. Get the wipe. Run back. Or just say, we got the knocks. Feels bad, man. Let's just go back. We couldn't flush them. We'll take them later. Or we'll give them to, I guess, Multi-Circle Gaming. I was just surprised to see Purdy pushing alone, because that's very, very different from how Shoot to Kill normally does things. This I could have expected from a Freak of Freaks. This I could have expected from many other teams that go out, like Batulin's pushing out, doing something on his own. PO from Gen G going out, trying to make a play on his own. Makes perfect sense. But Shoot to Kill is usually that type of team that will push together, that will try and overrun their opponents in fight and opportunities. So when Alo and Purdy are sitting somewhat together, Purdy is pretty obvious to me, at least what's happening here. Alo is holding, while Purdy is getting within nade distance. He comes over, lops a nade, gets a double knock, and that should be the great let's push together now. Let's push in and get the kills. But Alo just goes, nah, I'm gonna run back the other way. Could just be Purdy saying, Alo, I got this. Go to the other guys and help them out. I'll take care of this on my own. But it doesn't work out for him. So it could just be Purdy saying that he's got it, and then he didn't. It was just very surprising to me to see that Alo didn't push with him. Could be multiple reasons as to why that happened. But yeah. Again, a Freak of Freaks still plenty of buffer. Now they're starting to get contested. Map is only getting smaller. They're starting to be contested on their side of the circle now. What do they want to do? They've held off infantry enough on the north side to know that they won't be pushing. And now they're all coming down towards the south. They're saying, great, we need to deal with multi-circle gaming. And we need to deal with them fast if we want to make sure that infantry, the third-party team of all third-party teams, don't come sprinting down and shoot us from behind. So they all commit to it. They push down. Then when they realize, wait, okay, we got SDK down here. They're doing all the work for us. We don't have to overcommit. You saw them pushing down early. They came down. They wanted to hold their buffer zone. And they said we got to deal with them fast again, so we don't get these guys over the top. In the meantime, both SDK comes up from below, and they start hearing the action between infantry and Enso up the top, and they go, great, now we're not in a hurry anymore. We don't need, and that's one of the mentality things in the Freak of Freaks, we don't need those 15 kills. I mean, we would like 15 kills, don't get me wrong, but we don't need those 15 kills. We will take a 7-kill win if we can. We don't need 12 kills in a third place. We will take 6 kills in a second place. Because the risk of trying to get those 12 kills also means they could die in fourth with only 5 kills. So rather the safe play than the aggressive one. At least for a big portion of it. They played very calculated like that. So they keep Hikari up, trying to get info both this way and also as an overview towards the south. And once they realize we don't have to do all the work here on multi-circle gaming, they're currently busy with SDK, then they start backing off. Then they go, great, now we have space again. So SDK starts going down. Knocks start coming in on Summer and MCG as well. Now they go, great, you know what, there's a wounded now. Let's take them out. We'll back off afterwards and we'll take the fight later. They know they're fighting up top still, which means they don't have to worry about this push. There's no threat of them pushing forward while they're still fighting each other. As long as the guns are still shooting, as long as the nades are being thrown up there, as long as we're seeing knocks in the kill feed, they will not be busy looking down in our direction. So they get the knocks on SDK. SDK goes, great. We have 2 options. Either we try and backtrack this through an open field, or we crash into the compound. A Freak of Freaks now, knowing that they got the knocks on SDK down below, go, we don't anticipate SDK to want to make this open field push. We have the better position. SDK is a smart team. They would not want to push through an open field on foot trying to take us out. Not going to happen. So they leave a cart down here alone with EJ holding the overview. In the meantime, Hikari and Hansia come over the top and finish off the infantry and ends fight. Just straightforward third-party opportunity for them. They take it out, leaving a cart to be the contained player below. Again, the anchor point that is the alarm bell should they try and come this way. Circle goes towards the west. Lou, again, still chilling in the compound. And almost takes out the entirety of SDK. Doesn't end up happening. Here I was surprised. Here, when the double knock comes in, a Freak of Freaks has a chance of just pushing down and getting the game over with. They opt not to. I can understand that they don't. Again, it's just not really a Freak of Freaks playstyle to full speed send it into a building like that. They don't. They allow the rest to come up. They back off. And they go, great. Now we hold. And this, if we pause it right here, was a perfect position for a Freak of Freaks to be in. Because if you know this area, the hill gets steeper and steeper over here. And then it gets smaller and smaller there again, right? So it's not so steep, that it's a steep hill, and then it's not so steep again over here in the end of it. Afrika Freaks have 2 missions right now. Since they opted not to push, which is completely fair, they have to make sure that STK don't leave that compound. And how do they do that? They have a card prone behind a tree. He's not even going for info. He's literally just prone behind a tree. They have Hansia sitting behind a tree up here. Not even peeking, sitting behind a tree. Then they have Hikari. He is looking here. And EJ is looking here. Which means, right now, STK only know the exact position of 2 of Afrika's players. If STK opts to leave the compound, they have 3 different ways they can do it. Either they can try and wrap out to the east. We'll change the colors. Either STK can wrap out to the east and go this way. If that happens, EJ will spot them. They can try and wrap out to the west, go this way. If that happens, Hikari will spot them. They can try, and within possibilities, run uphill. If that happens, Hikari and EJ will spot them. Now, these 2 players, Hansia, let me just move this a little further over so you can see the whole thing. Hansia and Akkad have 2 very important jobs here. Job number 1, don't get spotted by STK, because you are the element of surprise on both your respective sides of the circle. Job number 2, once Afrika Freaks, once EJ or Hikari tells... At this point, they can't really go back, no. Because, I mean, Akkad is proning behind a tree, and there's at least 20 meters to the next. So he would probably get seen if he wanted to. Hansia can still roam around, but then he would lose... He's playing Contain here, right? He's... Hansia is looking down this way. Let me do yellow. He's looking down this way to make sure that that no one comes up this way. And he has to be ready as well, because right now it's Hikari. It's Hikari and EJ that are roaming around, trying to get all the info for them. So Akkad and Hansia right now have 2 jobs. A, don't get spotted. B, once Hikari or EJ calls, they're running out on this side, or they're running out on this side, or they're coming straight up the middle. Hit those damn shots. You have to be ready to hit those damn shots as soon as they're told to move. So just stay still, don't do anything, and you'll be fine. And it all works out for a good while. You can see Hansia is moving around the back, constantly looking down here, trying to make sure that no one's pushing. Also has a little bit of an angle on the top left side window by the staircase where you can take shots every now and again. But at the same time, Akkad, stay behind that tree. Don't do anything. And I don't know if it's because Akkad's just gotten bored after a while, or if it just took too long, or if they've been playing too passive in the game and he wants to do something. But at some point, Akkad gets up from behind that tree. New circle pops, and I think this is part of it. New circle pops, it keeps the compound in, but Akkad gets shifted out. He's still prone behind that tree, and once this circle pops, he goes, oh no. Oh no. They're still in. I'm out. Now I have to do something. Because if I start running this way, there's a chance they see me and I could get killed. I need to try and see if I can do some damage here. The thing is, STK has no clue he's there right now. So if he just waits, I'm very convinced that STK has all their eyes looking in this direction right now. If he just waits until the blue is practically on him, he can try and wrap underneath, or he can try and get back up towards his teammates. But he starts shooting now, and the second he starts shooting, Alo and Luke knows Afrika Freaks has a player isolated on this tree. We are within nade distance. Let's fuck him up so that once we take the fight in a second, we know it's a 3v3. Akkad, all he had to do was hide. He starts shooting at I. Look at this. And as soon, you can see it. You can see it. As soon as he starts shooting at Luke, Alo and Civil instantly send it back towards the east. They hold him off. They throw all the nades. They shoot him. They take him down. And Akkad can't get rest. Because EJ cannot, even though there's a bit of a smoke wall going up this way, EJ cannot risk going out to help him. They're on the circle is hard shifted west, right? They're on the far side of the circle, which means over here, the circle is closing in faster. There's no way Akkad gets back up, and they have just lost that entire flank. So he's going to go down. Blue is going to be the end of him. And now, Afrika Freaks have to try and do the same thing they just did before, but with one player less. So now EJ becomes Akkad, I guess you can say, in making sure they're not pushing up here. Hansia becomes, well, he's still himself, is the guy that makes sure they don't push up here. And Hikari is the guy that makes sure they don't push up here. You have one job right now. You know smokes are going to be thrown real soon. You have to hold your side. EJ, make sure they don't go up there. The dot is in here, right? Ansia, make sure they don't go up there. Hikari, if they run out, make sure to tell your teammates where they're running. What ends up happening? They're over towards the east. Hikari calls the east. They're over there. Great call. There are two guys committed to the east right now. One guy trying to hold the west. With the circle closing further and further in towards this side, this hill gets steeper and steeper. And we're reaching a point now where it becomes very difficult to run up this hill. Still, two players in the east. EJ still full on committed to holding this side. He's doing his job. He's holding his side of the circle. Now, they group up. They've given up this. The hill has become too steep for them to fear them coming up this way. Now there's only one place they can go out of here. They can only sweep out this way. The smokes are all there. Everything is set up for STK. But Hansia has left this flank. Hansia should be up here holding this side of the smoke. Instead, he doesn't. They're allowed to push up. They're allowed to push around. It was a little off the way I drew it. But he's not holding his line. He's not holding that left side of the smoke. So the smokes are actually here instead. Hansia should be over here holding that side of the smoke. He's not. They end up getting flanked up on by them in the end of it. And they go down. Impatience killed Afrika Freaks. Exactly as Crumpet is saying, how many matches have been lost because of people getting impatient? Surprisingly many. And for a team that's usually pretty passive and very well orchestrated in how they do things, I was very surprised to, first of all, see a card move from the tree and start shooting, and second of all, see everything go down the way it did up on the top. And running, but yeah, for sure. I mean, there's always the chance that Uncivil just comes around the smoke and lasers him, and there's nothing you can do. But what's so funny about it is that when we go back and we watch the 4v2 loss that TSM had against Akkad and EJ, Akkad did exactly what STK did. No, Akkad did exactly what Afrika Freaks should have done in this game as well. But it was Akkad that got impatient. Akkad got crazy that game and did a whole lot of damage. But now he gets impatient. And ends up dying. And then Hansia, like it's the two flank players that give up their flanks, and that allows for STK to push out. So it was a game of patience, and STK ends up winning it. Let's hop over to the final game of week 2 finals. This video is getting extremely long as well, damn. Game number... Oh no, do we have space for this now? 10. Does it go out of the side? Almost. There we go. Let me just take something to drink. If you have any questions, if you have any comments along the way, please, guys, feel free to ask. The last shift was an STK's favorite? I don't think so. I don't necessarily agree, because while the shift still kept the compound in, it made it very difficult for STK to push out on the east side. It made it incredibly difficult for STK to push out towards the east. So while the compound was in, they lost a side of the circle. There was a very, very big chance that STK were going to push up on that west side of the circle. And when they did, Afrika Freaks weren't in a position to cover it. So I wouldn't completely agree with it. I do agree that it was fortunate that the compound is still in, because if it had not been, or if it had gone to the east, Akkad would have been able to use his position better. But still, I don't think it was completely in their favor. It was still kind of evenly split. Let's see, game number 10. Playing very far west. And this is interesting, to me anyway, because as we saw before, we had a lot of teams that like splitting out around the shorelines, right? And now, not only that, but Oath went full crazy mode. And first off, they hot drop, and I was thinking, okay, so Oath wants to hot drop infantry, and the argument was they were doing it because infantry tried to bridge camp them, which I guess makes sense. Oath knew they weren't going to qualify, and that upset them, and then they go, you know what, we're not going to qualify anyway, let's just make some chaos. And infantry were in a position where they were in a really good spot. STK were close to them. Maybe it was if we take down infantry, then maybe at least STK can get some money, more money from Orica. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but they hot drop infantry. At least they try to down on Ferry Pier. The only thing is, infantry don't usually care at all about Ferry Pier, so that didn't work out for them. And then I thought, okay, hot drop over, didn't work out, doesn't matter. It was not over. It was not over at all. Up towards the north, Virtus Pro jumped out here. Ends up towards the north. Multi-Circle Gaming are going about their looting ways. STK making their way over towards Yasnaya. Haven't even started looting yet. Zenith getting themselves split looted. Liquid looting up in Pachinki. Nothing really too far out of the ordinary. Buriram over here again. Couldn't get all the way out towards the east. They'll just sit tight on chopsticks. And oh yeah, TSG. TSG realized that, wait, Oath ain't here. They were flying over, maybe to go towards the east as well. There you go, Oath ain't here. Peng hops up to, he just parachutes all the way over towards Sharkfin. And they get themselves a spot on the other side as well. Now, I thought this was the end of Oath hot dropping, but it wasn't. It was not the end. They all run up, they get themselves 2 vehicles, and then they start driving forward. They come over to the compound, they go, woo, there's a fight we can take here. James goes, what the fuck's going on? And Oath and infantry have a crazy brawl. Longsker is not at all in a position to help. He has one little window he can look out of, and every time he peeks, either Svit or James are going to be able to shoot at them, and infantry loses all their players except one. Now, joke's on Oath, because Longsker gets, what, 4th place that game? somehow the solo Longsker manages to get himself into a top spot, and they did stay in the money. And even though they jumped on infantry to try and kick them out, they actually have a better position than where they start off, and STK end up falling short as well. Because if we look up towards the north, the circle is centered just south of Potato, kind of down on the south side compounds here. 4am currently full control of Potato. They have the compound on the south side, they have 2 guys up on the hilltop, and they're forcing Multi-Circle Gaming to play further down. You can see them down here. They're getting looting up. They're getting ready to push up towards Potato. Crazy says, nah, he will leave. Not going to happen. Go down again. Now, Zenith, they wanted to push up as well, but because Multi-Circle has come back down, they now have to back further off towards the east, and they do this. So there's already now, because 4am is taking so much control of Potato, there's many more teams, even though it was a Western Plain, as we saw. Beep, beep, beep. Beep. Very Western Plain, that says beep apparently. Even though that's the case, there's many more teams on the east side than what there normally would be. Big beep. I assume with the Western Plain, this is why we see ends rotate like this. They want to go out east because they're going, there shouldn't be anyone. Or at least not anyone, but there shouldn't be that many teams towards the east of this circle. There shouldn't be that many teams here because it was a very Western Plain. So all the teams are going to be coming in from here. This over here should be pretty free. Not quite the case because of the way that 4am took charge here and forced all the other teams to wrap around. So now we already have a lot of teams down here. Ends wrapping around, trying to make their way down south. Virtus Pro wrap through the middle. And this was what we talked about coming into today as well. How I think this format is so funny because we have weekly survival. All that matters in weekly survival is winning the game. You can have 0 kills, does not matter. If the last guy dies to blue, you just need to win the game. The only one thing that matters. Get yourself a chicken dinner. Then we hop into weekly survival, and for the first couple of games, that's pretty standard. I mean, get as many points as you can, just like with any other tournament. But then normally we'd share the prize pool with, let's say, top 8. Now we cut it down to top 4. And it's only 10 games, right? Had it been 20 games, there would be much more points in the total leaderboards, and therefore there'd be much bigger divide between the top and bottom teams. But because there's only 10 games played, it's limited how much teams can really separate themselves from each other. Unless, of course, if 1 or 2 teams just get all the wins on day 1 and they have 1 billion points and everyone else has nothing, then it's going to be uneven. But it's always, when it's only 10 games, for the most part, it's going to be pretty even. There's going to be pretty steady line up in terms of how teams have performed. So then we come to day 2 of weekly finals, and now we have teams that are sitting in 10th, 11th, 13th with a couple of games to go, and they go, great, if we want to win any money at all, we have to be top 4. Right now, top 4 is, let's say, 20 points away. So if we just chill until late game and get ourselves a win the way we maybe normally would as a more passive team or an edge team, we might not, even if we win the game, get enough kills to get ourselves into placement points or into top 4 and win money. So we need to get kills. All of a sudden, it completely changes. Just 2 days later, first day you played weekly survival, you have to get wins. Nothing else. Just win the game. You can be as passive as you want. You can hide 4 people in the shack. Just win the game. Day 2, you play normal. You want to win. You want to get kills. Last day, if you're down the leaderboard, we need kills. The win alone is not going to give us enough placement points to not satisfy, but to get us up there. Because the current way that we're playing and a win is only equal to 10 kills, kills are so incredibly important. And if you're down by 30 points coming into the final 2 games, 2 wins and 20 points ain't gonna be enough if you don't have the kills to get, like, to support that. So now we're coming into a situation where teams are feasting, going crazy for kills, and that's just funny because it's only 3 days later than the weekly survival, but it is a complete opposite. It's a complete opposite in playstyle and mentality, and that's what's really making, I think, this tournament so difficult and exhausting for the players, because they're just constantly being thrown into, okay, now we have to do this, now we have to change the playstyle to that, now you have to play this playstyle, now you have to do this, now you have to do this. And I think that's a big part of why some teams more than others, are having a hard time, because they constantly have to change, not everything they're doing, but a big portion of their approach to engagement, their approach to rotations. It's so much different all the time in terms of how teams are playing. That is, for example, here, forcing Virtus.pro to take a YOLO fight against Liquid, which they would never have done if it wasn't because they desperately needed points. They were down the leaderboard. They knew if we just get the win, won't be enough. We need the points. We need the points. We need to take fights in order to get points. Because if we are outside of top 8, it doesn't matter if we're in 5th place or if we're in 16th place. We need to get points. And they won't get that if they just get good placements. It's just funny. Just funny how within the same tournament, within the same week, there are so many different things going on. Now, new circle pups. We're headed over towards the west. Of course, a lot of the teams, practically half of them, are coming in from the east, the teams that were over here before. And now we can go, well, the west is mighty open. And one team that we have talked about quite a bit today that made a, to me, very, very smart rotation are these guys. Squeaky's all the way up towards the north. Currently rotating down towards his teammates. Circle goes west. And what do? That is a very winning rotation in my book. They know they're late. They know they just got hard shifted away from. They know there's a billion teams in front of them trying to make it this way, trying to get over Potato. And Ents right now is in a position where they're actually already pretty far up the leaderboards. They don't need those kills. Yes, okay, the race to beat 4 a.m. at this point might be over. Because they're they have a pretty decent gap down to 2nd place, but they could beat infantry. It's not like they're gonna get 0 kills in the game. If they get a good position, and everyone else over here has been fighting like crazy people, if they can get into a good spot, if they maybe get one more circle going their way, they're gonna be 4 alive, with helmets, with vests, with utility, with non-damaged vehicles. And they're going to be going up against teams of maybe 2 players. Maybe they have 3. They probably don't have any vests left. They've probably used all their smokes fighting their way down from Potato. Or from the mountain up here, right? Potato Mountain. And if that's the case, theoretically, they should get more points off of that. So we'll see. We'll see how it happens. They do exactly that. Over the bridge they go. In my book, really smart play, because look at this up here. This is the chaos that they just do not want any piece of. The chaos where everything can happen. You know there's 9 teams around you that are just fighting each other nonstop like crazy, and there's just too many RNG factors in that. They stop, they scout, they make sure no one is holding on the other side, they rotate over, they get themselves a hard shift towards the west as well. We know that's going to happen, kind of. It could also go further north, but you know it's not going to go straight east because of phase 4. And they now have the spot to play from the south side of the circle. Incredibly smart play by Ents. Knowing their position on the leaderboard, knowing their needs in the game. And yeah, just playing incredibly smart. You want to know how Liquid gets to the other mountain with getting... How Liquid gets to the other mountain with getting killed. Without getting killed? Ah, gotcha. Well, we're about to see. We are about to see. They drive over the north. STK is doing the same exact thing. Again, where are the choke points going to be? STK right now also in a situation similar to Ents. We don't need 16 kills this game. Yes, it would be great, but too risky maybe. So if we go like this right here, we're talking about the heated sides of the circle. This is going to be fire. There's going to be so many teams out here trying to make their way in. This is going to be doom. Let's just alleviate all that pressure. We've just had 2 western shifts in a row. How about if we go over here and play the quiet side of the circle? It's literally only Bury Ram over here right now. Of course, they don't know that. But very quiet side of the circle, very hectic side of the circle. Let's make the smart play. STK does that as well. Wrap over the northern round. Try and see if you can make over. Make your way quickly, because once the blue starts closing in, you're limited in how wide you can rotate. Liquid does the same thing. Multi-Circle Gaming wanted to do the same thing. You can see them leaving, but they see, oh my lord, STK is in front of us. They beat us on the rotation. We can't just backtrack them because we don't know where they're going to stop. And if they stop, they're just going to plow us down. So they end up going into the city instead, seeing STK rotate in front of them. Liquid don't see STK, so they're going to just backtrack them all the way over. STK comes down to the compound. Norato tries to leave, gets taken down on its way out to safety. In the meantime, towards the east, fights ensue again. Long Skirt plays a solid 1v3 against TSG, ends up staying alive. Freak of Freaks try to stay put as well, not gonna happen. Reload, just smokes thrown, pad caps as well out there doing damage. They know, I mean, they're not gonna make any money this way anyway, or this tournament, or this week of the tournament anyway, so they run out and do damage. And in the meantime, a team that spots all this from the hillside, they know where Oath are, because Liquid was up here, remember, in the very start of the game. Alright. James is here. In the very start of the game, James is there shooting at them. They know Oath has this compound from way earlier in the game. And there's no logical explanation. I mean, to be fair, it is Oath. Everything could happen. There's no logical explanation as to why Oath should not be here anymore. So, when a Freak of Freaks come in, as soon as they start running down this direction, they can see and hear that. Oath getting knocks. They go, wait, Oath was here. They might not know whether it's a Freak of Freaks pulling up at the compound or if it's Oath pushing out somewhere else and taking a fight, but they do know. We're only 2. I'm not gonna sneeze. Oh, I hate fake sneezes. Ah, no. Oh, it's the worst when you feel like you have to sneeze, but you don't actually sneeze. Either way, they might not know exactly where the fight is happening, but they know Oath are involved, and since Oath were in the compound, it should be around the compound somewhere. So they drive down. Initially, they're going down the hill while they're fighting with a potential chance of third partying. They see Daytrade here. They see Oath running out with all the smokes in the field. They go, aha, let's readjust. Go over and take a position up there. Extremely smart play. Unfortunately for them, Oath, they're seeing red. They're going full rampage mode. They push over, they get them killed, and they rest and go back to the compound. Because Oath just want to fight everything. That's what they're doing right now, right? They're just chaos in the server. It's like playing Risk, if you've ever played that board game, playing Risk, and then when you're playing against a guy who has no way of winning, he just starts ignoring his objective and starts running around and fighting everyone. And you just can't account for that. It's like having the Joker in your city, but you don't have Batman, you know? He's just gonna go on rampage, and you can't really do anything about it because you can't predict crazy people. And in this game, Oath played crazy. They were just fighting everything they could, and in hindsight, it actually kind of worked out for them. Maybe if they do that a little more often, they will get themselves some kill points. I'm not advertising, not advocating hot dropping and YOLOing everything, because I think if you do that enough times, the statistics will prove that it ain't gonna be worth it. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe they could give it a try and see if it would work out. Oath, they clear the top. They go back down towards the compound. GX trying to come over the side, taking the fight to Gen G. Trying to stay alive. Gen G now taking full control of the hilltop. It was a really good fight for them. Ends down towards the south. No, they have Oath over the top. Managed to get themselves a kill. Unfortunately, they get one wiped as well. And then this was a similar situation to... I guess a similar situation to the no, you can't even compare those two, actually, now that we look at it in hindsight, because Daytrade knows that Ents are here. 4am didn't know that Ents was pulling up on Miramar earlier. So Ents are taking the fight to multi-circle gaming. And then when that's over and done with, they start fighting Daytrade. That makes perfect sense. You want to have control of the south. The circle is going to force you forward. But they fail to keep control of the north. Because while all this is happening down towards the south side, Loki gets to separate himself, go out towards the hill, grab himself a west side position, and in the meantime, PO, just because PO is doing PO things, is going to wrap out as well. He takes a vehicle, drives forward, nades are being thrown, explosions, everything. He's going to silent pull up on the hillside, and while Ents are all busy looking this way, PO comes up from behind, gets one, holds it for a second, they all die, they fall back. It's just Gen G things. Go over, third party, back off. Great, we got what we wanted. Let's back off again. You could argue that Ents should have had a player looking the other way, so the Rustamar there wouldn't have gotten down. And I think they probably would have done that if they had been 4 alive. But it's just when you have players right on top of you, you cannot dispose of a player. You cannot dedicate a player to sit like this and expect a 2v3 to go your way, you know? You need to commit it. It's just similar, very similar actually to what Tixu said here in the channel earlier today. I don't know if he's still here. But he said we just didn't win the fight fast enough. And that's the thing. It brings you back to Sanhok, right? When you think every single fight, you're expecting to get third partied on at some point. And the faster you finish the first fight, the faster you can get your gun reloaded, maybe get a first aid off, turn around, and be ready for the team that's coming at you. Ents got the first knock. I mean, these guys have been fighting now. Now they're fighting. You can't really see it in the feed, but already now, the first knock comes in at 24:16. They're still running around. Almost a minute later, 40 seconds later, and while it doesn't sound like a lot, it actually is quite a bit when you think of like a fight. 40 seconds is quite a bit. They still haven't gotten one more kill yet. So I think this is the same situation where maybe when they got the first knock on Flash, Ents would have been better off just pushing it. Push 2 down towards Neurons, push Rustama over the top. But of course, then again, I mean, they are in the top of the leaderboard, not in first place, but they are close to the top in the leaderboard, the fight for points. They don't want to risk going down, and Daytrade is one of those teams that are trying to beat them. That's the most scary thing, and I think that's maybe part of what maybe got into their heads. Part of the reason why they didn't overextend, or like didn't aggress on them, is that Ents are fighting for a spot in the top 4 right now. But Daytrade were right behind them. If they die, and not only die, but give 3 points to Daytrade, that could be Ents going out of the points and Daytrade taking their spot. So I think that's maybe got to do. If it was just a bottom team, then I think maybe they would have been more keen on fighting them. But they end up, as I said, and what Tix would probably agree with me on, is they end up taking too long. And they end up dying because of it, because it allowed for Gen G to push over the side and third party them. Now, as we go back, Gen G stay on the north hillside. They have control there. They know that Daytrade has to push down. Not going to work out. Oath over the top. Try to take control. Norrens are going nope. Because he knows that, again, Daytrade has a chance of qualifying. While they're playing, they don't have the exact numbers of how many points do we have, how many points do they have. It's just simply, like, you just play every game as best as you can. And they know that Gen G are currently climbing their way up the leaderboard to try and get points. So if there's one team you do not want to give any kill points to, that would be Gen G. Norrens denies, goes down to blue, gets himself a 3rd place. In the meantime, Rillo over the top. Snakers try to go for a drive-by shooting on PO, which didn't make any sense at all, and ends up going down because he whiffed the shots there. So he dies, Pio wins, Genji wins the game, and they get themselves into, I believe, 3rd place. Oh, I can't remember. I believe they finished in 3rd place. But that is going to be it. What a long stream for analysis. It's been a long time since we've gone this in depth, but I loved it. I hope you guys did as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you all in the next video.